end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, it's like pushed it like surprise.
Yeah.
Like you weren't expecting it. But yeah, so here we are.
Okay. It's aimed up. You see how we got little BTK.
Little BTK.
Yeah, we got little BTK.
Oh, hi little BTK. Little Dennis.
Here. Little Dennis.
Mini Dennis.
If I see him poking out, then I know the camera's pointed right.
Yeah, he's gonna. Well, I haven't touched it, so you know.
Okay. All right.
He might have to comment on this fucking show.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll see what.
It's a serial killer show.
We'll see what happens. Which are, you know, like I said, in a fucked up way, are kind of my favorite ones to do. This motherfucker here, I don't even remember who suggested this one, but this was a guy that for some reason I had never heard of him. But wow, this dude is a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
Was a real piece of shit. He's dead.
I remember.
He's dead, thankfully. But
I remember seeing him on TV. I think Geraldo did a couple shows about that.
Maybe
about
so. Yeah.
He was he was like in the American Nazi Party and was in the Klan, all these little clans, and he was real racist, and he would just go around fucking shooting interracial couples and Jews, and just he was like a drifter.
Yeah. I mean, he had a house and stuff, but
yeah, on the surface there didn't seem to be like a sexual motive, but the FBI does classify him as a serial killer, so they thought there was a sexual element to it, but.
Well, I thought it was funny because I was watching an interview that they did not long before he was executed. He was executed in 2013. And the woman that interviewed him was like retired FBI. And that was kind of one of the things that she addressed with him was that, you know, yeah, technically you are classified as a serial killer. And he was quite adamant that he wasn't a serial killer because it's like they have a different thing going on.
Yeah.
And... you know, so she was asking him, like, point blank, well, did you get any kind of sexual charge out of him? And he was, no, you know, he was getting real. And I kind of felt like, I mean, you know, you can't ask him now, he's dead, and he'd probably lie to you anyways. But I kind of feel like he acted like he didn't, like he was just sexually normal, and didn't go that way. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. I don't believe a lot of shit this motherfucker said.
Well, they classified him as a serial killer, although they may be breaking the classification slightly. He's at least a mass murderer.
Yeah, I guess technically he'd be more classified as a mass murderer just because, like you said, there's not...
But he's doing it in series.
A torture and a sexual element, but there is a... It wasn't like... It happened over like a 3 or 4 year period, and he was just going around the country and just... you know, shooting random people of different races that he didn't like, because he was trying to start a race war like Charles Manson. Yeah. So that was another thing. He was real into Charles
almost Manson. On the surface, kind of like fucking the Zodiac, but with far less sexual.
Yeah, and you know what? I was listening to a podcast yesterday that was like a Zodiac-centered podcast.
Yeah.
And this guy wrote a book. I didn't listen to the whole thing because it was really long. But he was trying to say that this guy should maybe be considered a suspect in the Zodiac murders. And I was kind of listening to it, but I was kind of like, I don't know, man. They
got Zodiac covered.
Yeah,
they know who that was.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that the stuff that he was using, like, to say that they thought that maybe he was the Zodiac, it was like, it seemed like a reach a little bit.
I think it is.
And this guy's motivation seemed completely different.
I think they pretty much narrowed down who the Zodiac was.
Yeah.
He told his family that he was... Basically, he told his family he was the Zodiac.
Yeah.
And he was one of the main suspects.
Well, it was Arthur Lee Allen, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what his name was.
Didn't they have that whole ass documentary on... Wasn't it on Netflix or something like that? With, like, all the family...
Yeah, that was him.
Members that, like, grew up with him and stuff. I don't remember if it was Arthur Lee Allen, but it was one of the main suspects.
Pretty sure
I know that for a long time they were like Arthur Lee Allen, or we're pretty sure it was him.
It was him.
I mean, I kind of feel like it was probably him too.
If not, it was a dude that got off LARPing as a fucking Zodiac suspect.
Yeah.
Which dudes like that exist, but there were too many other fucking things like the dates and shit that fucking his daughter and fucking his son fucking the dates lined up. Yeah, it was him.
Yeah.
Wasn't he molesting his daughter? Didn't he knock her out?
Yeah, that's right.
Knocked his own daughter out.
Yeah,
with
he
his little
drugged
girl.
her.
Drugged her and then and fucking
And did God knows what.
and did something to her. Yeah.
I think he did that on multiple occasions.
Yeah, molesting his daughter.
Yeah. I don't think that was his daughter. I think that was...
Was his daughter or was his niece?
No. He was the mom's boyfriend.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
It was his stepdaughter then, right?
Kinda. Like, I don't even know if he married the mom.
It was the mom's daughter.
But, you know what I mean. Yeah.
I thought it was his daughter, but maybe.
No, it wasn't. It was...
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, he was like the mom's boyfriend.
So they know who that was. It wasn't this guy. They knew who Zodiac was.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I just listened to this because that was the only thing that I saw on YouTube, like, about that. And I was like, what? Would they think this guy's a Zodiac? It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
Because this guy, I mean, the Zodiac seemed to kind of relish being this figure of mystery, and, you know, he's wearing the hood and he's sending all these, like, codes and all this other kind of shit. So he was getting off on that kind of stuff. This guy, I think he wanted to an extent, he wanted people to know not necessarily who he was, but why he was doing what he was doing. Because, like I said, he wanted to start a race war. Like, okay. So, and I think later on, at least the implication, the impression that I got, like, in the interview with him that they did in 2013 before he got executed, was that he was still kind of salty that the media didn't immediately, like, twig on that all of these crimes were related. Well, but, I mean, because they wouldn't. This was, like, back in the late 70s, and he was doing them in different states.
Yeah, they're not going to...
So it's like they're not going to link those up.
That's
you know what I mean?
thing.
Necessarily.
That's another thing.
They didn't do that till later.
The whole concept of race war usually is taking place in a country much smaller than the United States. Some of these countries are even smaller than a state in the United States. A country the size of the fucking United States, geographically and everything, you're never going to have a race war like these kind of dudes fantasize about.
Well, the whole...
Like that fucking Charles Manson wanted.
It won't
happen.
Was basically like, we're going to start killing white people and blaming it on black people.
Yeah.
And then white people... will kill black people, but the black people will win, and they'll wipe out all the white people, but then we'll be the only white people left, and we'll be able to run shit because black people can't run shit.
Yeah.
That was his whole... And this dude believed that, too.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That's clearly ridiculous.
Yeah, black population in the United States is 13%. Half of them are women. So that's 7%. Women usually don't take place in any active civil wars.
We don't do this kind of shit.
They don't do that kind of shit. And then out of the men, only like fucking 1/3 of them are of combat age. Most of them too old or too young. So no, not enough people. Black population isn't big enough that you get worn down to nothing.
Well, that never stopped a crazy person like Charles Manson coming up with some bullshit that the Beatles told him specifically on their White Album.
Yeah,
because that's a real sane thing to think. They're sending me messages to me personally. That's crazy. But yeah, this dude believed that too. So that's kind of what he was trying to do. Which, you know.
And there isn't going to be a race war between whites and Hispanics either. That's another fantasy. Whites and Hispanics have been fucking intermarrying since the 1500s in the American continent. And no, there's not enough cultural problems there. It just won't happen. Too many people are interrelated. People don't realize. A lot of these fucking racist dudes don't realize that Hispanics are people that speak Spanish. Spanish is a European fucking language. They're Catholics. They're Christian. There's very little difference between a fucking Anglo and a Hispanic. They come from, the roots of their civilization come from fucking back in the honky motherland, and it's only a couple hundred miles apart between fucking England and Spain and Germany and Spain, you know? Fucking Spain and Germany were allies during fucking Spanish Civil War. There was all kinds of shit. You know, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Well, here's the thing. I kind of feel like at the root of a lot of these white supremacist dudes is these are dudes that are losers.
They're losers.
Yeah, you ever see like white supremacists like on a talk show or something like that? They look like inbred dipshits. Yeah, it's like, ooh, master race right there. Well, the reason for that is because
that's all they have.
They're complete losers, so it's like they can't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, they just want to get a fucking award just for being white.
Yeah.
That's basically the root of it right
That's
there.
all they got.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they got.
That's all they have to offer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm white.
Yeah.
I can't do fuck all else.
Living in a trailer.
You know what I mean? I have nothing else to offer the world.
And their shortcomings, like their economic problems.
So they have to make that like the main thing. Like that has to be the best thing.
Yeah, and their shortcomings they're going to blame on other people. They're going to say it was a Jewish conspiracy or whatever. They'll say anything.
Ridiculous. It's just ridiculous shit that these people believe.
Yeah. Now that's just the the Nazis and the white supremacist types, the fucking radicals. They're fucking nuts. Now, what's common right now is to hate on those motherfuckers and want to stamp them out. But if you do that, it causes them to become more hardened in what they believe. They actually become more dangerous. They're mostly this way because they're scared. Okay, they're scared of just fucking. They have fucking free floating fucking fears that they're being picked on. There was a black dude who fucking went out of his way to go to all the Klan meetings and befriend the Klansmen. They were making him an honorary member of the Klan.
And when he was like, no thanks.
No. He would go to the Klan member. He'd make him an honorary. No, that's right, because he was trying to make friends with him.
Yeah.
And because the tool that he used was hot rods. He knew everything about hot rods. They liked hot rods. They liked rock music. He knew all about that.
Yeah, so he found common ground.
His influence destroyed entire Klan networks.
Yeah.
Because they're like, what am I scared of?
Yeah.
And that's how you deprogram those
I
dudes.
would agree that is the best way to go about it. But most people don't have the patience to put up with
that dude. I forgot his name, but in a way, like a hero. He went in there and fucking, it's like, you guys are worried about shit that isn't going to happen, and people are just people, and we like hot rods. We're like, so...
they're just making themselves miserable and anxious and afraid over nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like they could just have a nice life and
well, that's what happened.
Do fun shit that they like and not worry about what other people are doing.
There was some reporters that went and hunted down the fucking white supremacists and the Klansmen and asked them how they were doing, and fucking then asked them about that guy. Oh yeah, he was cool, and fucking some of them they're living a much better life, and you know what I mean. They have black friends. A few of them had black girlfriends and black children. They just kind of you can't deprogram somebody with hate. You can only deprogram somebody with friendship. That gets them to settle down. They go, I ain't worried. These black people are no threat to me.
Yeah, because like I said, you have to realize that the root of their stupid beliefs is fear. They're afraid.
Yeah, they're afraid.
They don't know of what exactly. They're afraid.
Well, they see on the news
they're afraid of a bunch of imaginary shit.
They see on the news a bunch of crime, black people doing it, black people everywhere. Black people are after me. Then paranoia starts coming in, and then they're around their own kind who believe the same way. It just reinforces it over and over again. Now all they're just doing is focusing on that. Telling you, everything in Star Wars is true, basically, because George Lucas didn't write that shit. He stole it from philosophies and ancient religions. Obi-Wan told fucking Anakin in one of the prequels, he says, be careful what you fucking linger on, because your focus becomes your reality. The things that you focus on will become reality, even if they're not that true.
Yeah.
So you get them to focus on race, and then all of a sudden that's all they see.
Yeah.
That's not the way life really is when you
of course not.
Relax.
There's lots of other shit going on.
Right. Well, so this dude probably was deep into that.
Yeah, and he was focused.
And he was a psycho.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
Because thinking about it and doing it are two different things. It takes different levels of commitment.
This dude was committed, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. That's not a compliment.
No, he was committed to this shit. Once you start pulling triggers on people, that means you're an extremist for real.
And he not only killed, he was convicted ultimately of 8.
Yeah.
But they're pretty sure he did about 22.
Okay.
And not all of them died. Like, some of them were wounded, but the 22 died. And a couple of them were kids, like 13, 14. And the woman asked him about that, and his body language got real nervous about that. Because he shot him from far away. He's like, well, I thought they were older. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think he felt bad. But the thing about it is that he tried to say later in prison that he recanted and stuff, found Jesus and all that crap. But, I mean, he was a Christian before. But you know how they get it. And it's like, oh, I found Jesus and they forgive me and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck you.
He was around all them brothers up in prison, and he had to fucking change his ways.
Well, we'll get into that.
He's outnumbered.
We'll get into what happened
He had
there.
to make peace with everybody.
Yeah, he's like, I
Yeah.
don't hate you guys. Shh, please don't kick my
Yeah.
ass. Well, no, I mean, he did get. We'll talk
Now,
about
another
it.
thing is, before we start the show and getting onto this guy, you cannot lump all the different kinds of racists together. They're not all the same. They're different. For instance, you had dudes like fucking, what was that guy's name? He was a political guy. He was actually in fucking the House.
David Duke.
David Duke.
We're
yeah.
gonna bring him up in a minute too.
Yeah.
because he knew this guy.
David Duke would talk a mean game, but his ex-wife says that he was friendly to black people. He had black. He would go hang out with fucking Nation of Islam. What was that guy's name? Fucking Farrakhan. He knew Farrakhan. They were like friends. White supremacists and let's say white nationalists and black nationalists tend to get along. They want the same thing. They want separation of the races.
They're bonding over common ground.
They would bond over all kinds of common ground. So it's not quite the same as a dude like this guy who will go out and just kill people. You know?
Just because they're
Just
black
because,
or Jewish,
right? Yeah,
which
right.
is what he
So
did.
they're not all the same, and to fully understand it, you have to get into the different shades of it, the different types of it. And but this dude here, he'd kill you if you were in an interracial relationship. That's fucking crazy. You talk about who's he to fucking say who you can fucking date?
Yeah,
You know,
he
like,
seriously
it's
thought
like-
he was cleansing the earth.
Cleansing the earth
because he
with
just
his
thought
power.
it was wrong.
Yeah.
And honestly, even before they executed him, like I said, I saw this interview that they did in 2013, and as much as he said he'd renounced his racist views and shit like that, he still thought that different races shouldn't marry each other.
Yeah,
He still thought that.
yeah.
So he didn't really learn all that much, I guess.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think most of the shit he was saying, just his body language and the way he was talking, like the tone of his voice, he still sounded like he didn't really change his views all that much. Despite what he said, I think he was just talking a line. You know what I mean?
It's ridiculous because it's collectivist thinking. All right, it's like I am a white person, and therefore these white people must do this or that. We're all the same. Black people are all the same. We got to keep saying that's a racial collectivism. That's not how it really is, man. Fucking, if you meet some chick and you fucking fall in love with her and you're dating and shit, that's your choice. Her color really doesn't matter. Well, it might become a factor, culture and shit like that, but that's all right.
But that's not her fault. That's
not her fault.
That's the outside world's
Yeah,
fault.
yeah. You know, so who's this dude to say who you could fucking have a relationship with?
Yeah, he thought he had some kind of authority,
Yeah.
I guess, like
The
I said.
Interracial activity has been going on for hundreds of thousands of years back before fucking human beings. When you're talking about different types of hominids, okay? They
were hitting different species.
they were fucking. They were crossbreeding, and they weren't even. Some of them were fucking not like fucking Neanderthal and Homo sapien were not. They were cousins, but they were different species.
Well, I mean,
they were
yeah.
crossbreed.
We got about 2% Neanderthal? At least,
people.
at least white people are.
White people have like
Because that happened
I thought
after
it was like 5%.
after the African
Yeah,
diaspora.
I think it was like 5% or something. I think it was a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's part of nature for
Yeah.
that to happen. And race, cultures, countries are all temporary if you understand history. The maps are constantly changing. The way people look constantly changes. And it's because of that. And that's just part of the system. It's nature working things out.
It's all good.
Yeah. Just how it is.
I'm not worried about
Everything's
it.
temporary, including you.
Well, like I said, I just take people on an individual basis, man. I don't really like worry about shit.
Yeah.
I don't worry about shit like that.
If I get along with them, they're all right.
Because I classify the world into two different. I just like you're an asshole or you're a non-asshole.
Yeah, yeah. Me and Jen are in the goth scene. Everybody in the goth scene is cool. You know, fucking. Most of the dudes I hang out with in the goth scene are black. They're black ex-military guys.
Yeah, which you wouldn't think, but yeah.
You wouldn't think because we're all oddballs. Ex-military guys are oddballs in the goth scene anyway. So, you know.
It's just
I don't have a lot in
We're all the
common.
detritus that washed up from other things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
okay though. That's what's kind of cool.
And
about
they're all in interracial relationships. And then
Sure.
the black girls we know in the scene, they're married to white guys.
Yeah.
So it's just, and it's not because of color. It's just if you're in that scene, if you're black, chances are you're going to be surrounded by white people. You're going to find one you like.
Yeah, it's mostly white people.
Yeah, it's mostly white
to
people.
be honest. Well,
So
white and Hispanic.
Yeah, white and Hispanic.
In Florida, anyway.
Florida, yeah.
Because there's a lot of Hispanic people.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like blending between white and Hispanic here. I mean, some people, I'll be talking to some girl I've known forever and fucking realize, I didn't realize she's Hispanic. Because
Yeah.
you just don't think that way.
You don't think about it.
Yeah.
That's another goth person.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's goth first.
Yeah.
Then like the later shit. Like I said,
Yeah.
sometimes we've known people for years.
Yeah. What's that?
And we didn't realize.
We got a super chat.
I know.
Okay.
That's from Papa77.
That's from Papa, yeah.
You guys are so generous always. Here's $10 just for doing my favorite subject, which I assume is serial killers. Love these shows. Thank you very much. I like doing them too. Like I get really, I don't know what this says about me, like I said, but every time we do a serial killer show, I just go like super down a rabbit hole. Like read all this shit about this dude, because like I said, and this was a dude that I hadn't heard of previously. Oh, and this is, if you need a point of context, this is the dude that shot Larry Flynt. You remember that?
Oh, okay, this is him?
This is him.
Yeah, Larry Flynt.
Like Larry Flynt didn't die, but he was paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was him.
Yeah, this is the same
Okay.
guy that shot Larry Flynt.
Okay.
So
He was Larry Flint owned Penthouse.
no, Hustler.
Hustler, that's
Hustler.
right. Which was a great magazine. I loved it as a kid. Be fucking
My
pulling into
dad
that
had
fucking
him.
magazine all the time.
My dad had him.
Hustler, Club International.
I found his stash when I was a little girl.
Charity.
He had Penthouse and Hustler.
Yeah.
I almost said Puzzler. I was trying to
Yeah.
put the two things that sounds kind of gross.
That's what made you buy.
Probably. Honestly, I don't remember how old I was, but it's like I was. I don't know. I just found it when I was like flipping through them, going, "Huh, look at this hot chick in there." You know, wasn't what I thought, but I was just kind of like, "Ooh."
Most of listening to the fucking life stories, interviews of some of these porn superstar girls. It always starts with them fucking being a little girl coming in contact with porn.
Mm.
Yeah, with their dad's porn. It's always that. You're like, oh wow.
Really, that's real common.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would be common.
Well, I guess people react to it different ways.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah. Fucking what's her name? Fucking Angela White and Lily Lou, those types. They say they found porn. But in the more modern era, it was on the phone,
Well, yeah.
and they were just like, that's
much
it.
easier to find porn nowadays.
Yeah, and
Back in the day, you had to like come across a magazine.
They wanted to be porn stars at like 12. They're like,
Okay,
they're
I didn't
thinking
want
that's
that.
what I'm gonna do. No, they were fucking.
I didn't want that, but I did.
Angela White wanted to be a porn star by the
Yeah.
time she was fucking 12.
But I did like
Yeah.
I did really like the pictures of the ladies
Yeah.
in there. But I had crushes on boys too. Like even when I was in first grade, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I was kind of like all around.
I'm gonna go to the restroom. Let me get you another drink, Mom.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay.
While you're up. Yeah, everybody's here. Yeah, CB says, human blood is red and bones are white. All humans are equal and all life is equal. Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like I said, if you're cool, that's cool. If you're an asshole, fuck off. That's pretty much my only criteria. You know what I mean? I don't care what you look like otherwise. Yeah, and CB said, white supremacists are hypocritical because they hate gay people but have sex with fellow white supremacists, hate black people but have sex with black women, hate Jewish people but do business with them. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just really... It doesn't make any fucking sense, really. And like I said, if you just base your whole entire life around that, it's kind of pitiful, really, basing your entire life around... But like I said, I think that's why they do it, is because they're fucking losers in every other sense of the word, and like that's all they have to offer. Hey, at least I'm white. You know what I mean? Like that's literally it. So it's like they have to... you know, they have to kind of magnify that to some much larger degree, because it's otherwise they don't have anything. And like I said, this dude, I will admit he had like a real bad childhood, as many serial killers do. But like I said, that doesn't really excuse it. It's not great, obviously, but you can kind of see why. But the thing about it is he had siblings, and they were also abused, but they didn't go around randomly shooting people. So... just goes to show. I mean, the siblings did say he got the worst of it, but, you know, I don't know. Like I said, I thought it was just from his point of view, and he was just trying to throw a pity party for himself. But his siblings did say that like their family was very abusive, so that doesn't help either. But I think this dude had some other shit going on. He actually was later, during one of his many trials, because he killed a lot of people in a lot of different states, so they had to keep moving him around like for different trials and stuff. They did have a psychiatrist diagnose him with paranoid schizophrenia. And they were kind of trying to, the defense was kind of trying to use that as like, you know, he's not fit to stand trial. But the thing about it, like, from watching interviews with him and seeing him talk, he seemed like he knew what he was doing was bad. He knew. I don't think he was so mentally ill that, I mean, he was paranoid for sure, but I don't think he was so mentally ill that he thought that he was doing the right thing, or, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Talking about this guy?
Yeah. So, like I said, it just seemed a little bit like an excuse. But like I said, he was abused really bad as a kid. So, yeah. All right. So, do you want to get into this? The Shaby's here too.
Yeah. What's up, Shabe?
Everybody's here.
We sent her a video. Remember? On the last show. Got a picture of you getting into bed.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. You laughing.
I forgot.
Coming into her shorts. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, don't take a picture of my face.
No, you look cute.
Looking all ogre-like without all the makeup on.
No, you look cute.
I don't look that bad without makeup on, but
yeah.
I don't really like to be on video without makeup.
It was dark anyway.
That's true. You know what I mean? I'm kind of weird about it. Well, but I think the main thing is because I don't have eyebrows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to
like when I don't have.
Yeah.
Because I got tired of tweezing them. You know what I mean?
Your lips are sure are looking good.
Yeah, I did the lips again today.
Yeah.
Well, he did the lips again today.
Yeah. A little bit more. Okay.
Papa says, very nice, we owe you some pics or videos now.
Yeah.
Shavy said you looked adorable. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it, so it's just like I came in like getting in bed and he's like, hey, Ron. And I was like, okay.
I was in bed fucking, accepting friend request. And fucking you walk in and so I got you like that.
with my little bed.
Yeah, I was drinking. I've been drinking. That's come off that show.
Yeah, so it was a whole thing. We get into all kinds of trouble.
Yeah.
When we drink. But it's fun trouble, though.
Yeah.
We don't usually get into bad trouble.
No.
It's mostly fun trouble.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Portuguese, you call it encrenca. Encrenca is kind of like, what's the word? I'm trying. Not trouble. Mischief.
That's a better word,
mischief,
probably.
Yeah, mischief.
Mischief,
yeah.
We get into mischief.
Yes.
When we drink. All right. So, let's talk about this Jack Wagon. Who is thankfully dead now. Like I said, he was executed in Missouri in 2013. He had lots and lots of life sentences, but it was Missouri that gave him the one death sentence. And they carried through with it after 15 years. So Joseph Paul Franklin was actually not his birth name. We'll get into why he changed it later on. His birth name was actually James Clayton Vaughn Jr. And he was born in Mobile, Alabama. Now his family was like pretty poor. His dad, James Clayton Vaughn Sr., obviously, was a butcher. He'd been in World War II. And starting from when Joseph was about 7 or 8 years old, he just started like abandoning the family for long stretches. They never knew like when he was going to come back. Like he would come back every now and then. Like, hey, here I am. And then he would beat the shit out of all the kids when he came back, which is nice.
He was living with his girlfriend.
Probably, yeah. And he was just that's just kind of what the dudes did back then, I guess.
Not all of them.
This was
yeah.
19.
Yeah.
Well, he was born like Joseph was born in 1950, so this would have been like late 50s. You know what I mean? Like 1957, 1958. So the dad would leave, and then he would come back every now and then and would beat all the kids up. Like when he came back, like, hey, Dad's home, pow. You know what I mean? It was that kind of shit.
Got to discipline them. They're being bad.
I guess. It's like, well, maybe if you were here, like they wouldn't act up like that, you know? Look what you made me do. According to his siblings, Joseph did get the worst of it. And it wasn't just beatings, but apparently they would also kind of starve him. Like they wouldn't give him enough food.
Okay, yeah.
Now, their mom, whose name
Diet therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going to bed without dinner for like 3 weeks at a time or something like that. That's what you get for fucking, so there was that. So they were constantly kind of starved all the time. There was their mom, Helen, According to him, she was like even worse than their dad, like after the dad left. Now, his mom was of German descent, which, you know, makes sense compared to, you know, thinking about how his views went later on. But his mom had also been abused by her mom, who she called Mort for some reason. I don't know what her name was, but that's what she called her. So her mom used to beat the shit out of her, so she decided she was going to repeat the cycle, I guess. Oh, I guess I'll also beat the shit out of my kids.
Yeah, they did that back in the day.
Because that's how you do it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Raising you right.
Good enough for my parents,
yeah.
Good enough for you. That never ended well, did it? It turns out dudes like this. That's how that happens. So yeah. Now, because of all of this abuse as a child, he would later say that he always believed that he was like 10 to 15 years behind everyone else, like maturity-wise, like emotionally, I guess. Yeah, so he was kind of stunted, is what he was saying. I don't know if that's true, because that's according to him. So, and then he said that later. Now, when he was about 7 years old, he was in some kind of accident. Most sources say it was a bicycle accident, and he mostly lost the sight in his right, I believe it's his right eye. Like, so he's legally blind in his right eye. Now, when he started going to high school, he started getting into, he was real into like weird diet fads and that kind of stuff. And then he started getting into like evangelical Christianity, which I guess those two things kind of go together. You know what I mean?
Wait, what?
Diet fads. Well, it's all kind of culty thinking, you know what I mean? And then he got super into Nazi shit.
Yeah.
Yay. So he ended up dropping out of high school at the end of his junior year, which was 1967. And right around the time he was 18, he read good old Mein Kampf. And he got super into that book. Holy crap. He even said, and this is a quote, "I've never felt that way about any other book that I read. There was something weird about it." So he got like super, super jacked about Adolf Hitler.
Really not much to that book from the analysis that I've read.
Honestly, I've never read it. I've read, bits of it. But I've never read the whole... I would never sit and read the whole thing straight through because I think, like, it's a waste of time. But
it's just about... It's just mostly about Germany getting fucked over fucking after World War I. That's mostly what it's about. And the shit that the foreign powers were doing to it. And most of it was true. Yeah, Germany got fucked over. That Treaty of Versailles was, they should have never done that. It just impoverished Germany on purpose. Blamed Germany for World War I when it really wasn't their fault. It was kind of between all of them. They had a bunch of mutual defense pacts and some barely known fucking Archduke Ferdinand got assassinated by a Serbian. And then everybody turned on one another and started fighting. And that was how fucking World War I started. And then the average civilian didn't really even know what the fuck was going on because they were so detached from the fighting at the front lines. They weren't even really sure war was happening. But Hitler and a bunch of fucking Germans, they caught hell on those front lines. PTSD bad as a motherfucker. When the war was over, they wanted revenge for what happened to them. And then with that Treaty of Versailles and everything they did to Germany, they heaped all kinds of suffering on them. Just impoverished them, and then a civil war broke out. And that was the genesis of the fucking German National Socialist Party. And the communists, they were happening in Germany too. And the Nazis won. And then they fucking won the war and then lost it by attacking Russia. Dumbasses. And then then they started losing against the Russians, and you know what happened? The Holocaust. And that happened. Yeah, Germany never really recovered, even to this day.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a big deal.
It was a faux pas, yes.
A bit of a faux pas. It's a party foul.
Yes,
Let's call it that.
Yes.
Bit of a party foul.
Yes.
Oopsie. Jesus Christ. So,
there's a little bit of an overreaction by the Germans.
Just slightly. Just slightly.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, Oracle said this is a good point. She says diet fads and Christianity overlap because they both claim that you are bad and it's all your fault, but if you follow all our rituals, you will be saved from being a filthy sinner. Yeah, that's the same. Like I said, it's kind of the same kind of thinking.
That and it sounds really good on an infomercial.
That too.
Yeah.
That too. See, I don't subscribe to any of that kind of shit. The second anybody starts any of that self-helpy kind of crap, I'm just like, out. No. Like I said, you don't know me, so you can't help me. You know what I mean? I don't like it.
Well, diet and exercise are a reality.
Well, yeah, I know that, but it's just like, I'm talking more about like the fad kind of shit. Like,
yeah.
You know, where they're saying this one machine or this one protein shake thing or something like that is going to solve all your problems.
The worst one is the fucking grapefruit diet. Just drink grapefruit juice. No, that's the worst thing you can do.
God, I'll eat all your stomach lining
Not
off.
only that, fucking...
I love grapefruit juice, but I'm not going to eat that much
Your
of
body
it.
will be in constant fucking, what do you call it? Fucking insulin fucking shock from all that damn fucking carbohydrate. You won't lose a pound. Look at this cat.
Stop it, Pokey. Oh, I forgot to put the bike over there, like, to block her. I usually put my exercise bike, like, in front of the...
Look at it tearing up a post.
She's like, well, I got you to pay attention, so it worked.
Yeah. She's manipulative.
She is very... Well, she's super smart.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what she's like, hey, if I go fuck some shit up, then Mommy and Daddy will pay attention to me.
Daddy will pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, she kind of likes to get punished. She's a little bit of a masochist.
Yeah. Well, it's because the punishment doesn't hurt.
Yeah, we don't hurt her. Like,
Just
nothing bad has ever happened to her ever.
No, it's just attention. Punishment is more attention.
She just likes getting attention. She's like, she likes Daddy going, yo, you're so bad.
Attention, aren't you? Trying to get attention.
There you go. Hey, Pokey's on the show. Don't call her fat, though. She's gonna get a complex.
You can never stay up here with Daddy? Okay, you run.
She knows what you're saying.
Yeah.
She understands, like, a lot of words.
Yeah, she knows a lot of words. She's got a good vocabulary.
She does, yeah. CB said Hitler hated the Jewish people because he blamed them for losing World War I and the Jewish lawyer outsmarting him in court.
Yeah.
I'd heard that. That's really funny.
Well, they had taken over key nodes of control inside of Germany. And a lot of it was because, well, they earned it. That was part of it. And then they would promote each other, too. That was another thing that happened. So they had they thought that the Jews had taken over their country. Especially the Nazis really thought that. Now, the thing is, some of those Jews were there for fucking generations and generations and fucking served nobly in World War One. I know all the details. I fucking read all books on it. Fucking listened to fucking Jewish people that were there, that saw the interviews with them, that saw the rise of the party and everything. It was a lot more complicated than you think.
Everything
the Germans were pretty racist, but they were flexible about it. If you were Jewish and they liked you, they just proclaimed you as a German.
Well, I think that's true of all racists.
Yeah. They're like, well, I like you, though. You've been good. You're no longer a Jew.
They hate you as a group, but they like specific ones.
You guys
like, my dad was super racist, but his best friend was black when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, he's one of the good ones.
Yeah, he's a good one. Yeah. Well, the Germans were exactly the same way. Their racial policies were actually, in some ways, kind of flexible. We like you, so we're not going to send you to the camp. We're just going to give you German identity papers. Don't tell anybody for your own safety. They would say shit like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Some of them were even in the SS. So, you know.
Yeah.
The SS, the Hitler Youth poster boy, he's all blonde and gorgeous looking kid and shit like that. He's the one that's recruiting all these young Nazis. Turns out later he was Jewish.
Yeah. Sure, a lot of people were that they didn't know.
Yeah, and then they didn't know at first, but then they realized, oh shit, he's Jewish. Because, German Jews had been there for a long, long time.
High Desert said, have you ever heard of that crazy diet lady who was a Christian cult leader? I think her name was Gwen Shamblin. And Oracle knew who it was. High Desert said she looked normal at the beginning, and when she passed, she looked like a fucking scarecrow monster from American Horror Story. Yeah, Oracle said not a good person. I'm going to look her up because I've heard that name, but I don't know where my pen went. Pookie must have taken it's over there somewhere. Gwen Shamblin, I'll remember. But yeah, maybe we could do a show about her one of these days. That would be kind of an interesting show to do, like the weird overlap between all these fucking diet fads and Christianity. I have wanted to do a show. We kind of did one about psychics, but I would like to do one about like weird evangelists and shit like that. Did we do one like that? Didn't we do an evangelist show?
We should.
If we haven't, we should.
Yeah.
I thought we did, because I thought we talked about that Kenneth Copeland freak and some of those other people. But, you know. Yeah, Oracle said she'd make a good topic. Yeah, okay, definitely. Definitely. I don't know. Hand me that pen over there. I can't really reach it. There's all kind of pens over there. Thank you. I thought I had one over here, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. When shambling. Yeah, that's like a fucking weird little rabbit hole to go down, I'm sure. But yeah, okay, so he reads Mein Kampf, and then right around the same time, I guess, or maybe a little bit later, he also, when did Helter Skelter come out? Like the Charles Manson one? I read that too, but like, he read that, and he kind of got the whole idea from Charles Manson / Adolf Hitler. Like, yeah, we should totally do a race war, because that's a great fucking idea, isn't it? So, because remember how I said like he was in an accident and when he was 7 and he was blinded in his right eye. I don't know if he was completely blind, but he's legally blind in one eye. So he didn't get drafted like for Vietnam. You know what I mean? Because of his eyesight. So he married. This motherfucker was married twice and he had a kid. So you know what I mean? I hope she doesn't fucking know anything about him. She did visit him, I think, like later on, but yeah, sadly, because I didn't realize that. And then, like, I looked, I was like, wait, this motherfucker had a daughter? Oh my god. So he's 18 years old in 1968, and he marries a 16-year-old girl named Bobby Louise Dorman. Now, I think they'd only known each other for a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? So they get married, and Bobby says that, you know, it was fine for like the first few weeks. Like he was really gentle and sweet and everything like that. He said he was going to take care of me, blah, blah, blah. And then she said all of a sudden he changed. And then she said he beat me so hard I was afraid he was going to kill me. So, you know, great. He could only keep up the facade, I guess, for a couple of weeks. And then he started beating the crap out of his 16-year-old wife. Like I said, he's 18 at this point, so that's not that weird, but still. It'll get weirder, like, later on. When he marries another 16-year-old, when he's much older. But yeah. So there was that. So this marriage only lasted 4 months. They divorced after 4 months. Because he kept beating the crap out of her. And like I said, she was only 16. Hopefully, she had a nice life after that. And that was just like a little blip on the radar. You know what I mean? And I think one of the things, too, that kind of pushed him into going, like, along the direction he was already going was, I guess they had lived in an all-white neighborhood up to this point, but then, like, it slowly started to get integrated. And he started to go farther and farther into the whole racism thing, you know what I mean? And in 1968, which was the same year that he married the 16-year-old, he joined the Arlington American Nazi Party. So he's not even hiding it. That's the straight-up Nazi Party, and he joined it in 1968. So he's hanging out with these people. In 1970, there's actually a photograph of him floating around somewhere where he's wearing a Nazi uniform because he went to protest. Golda Meir was visiting the White House. She was the Prime Minister of Israel at the time. And he went to a protest, and he was there in a Nazi uniform, and someone got a picture of him. So that was 1970. So like I said, he wasn't hiding it. He was fucking proud of it.
I remember photos of that kind of shit fucking surfacing in some of these books when I was a kid, talking about fucking American Nazism and shit. It was an anti-Nazi type book, but I remember seeing those pictures. They were of these guys that were taken at these American Nazi rallies and shit from that era, from the 70s. Those dudes look like shit. A lot of them were fucking overweight, and their fucking costumes look like shit. And it just, you know.
If they were cool ass people who had something to offer the world, they wouldn't be doing that crap.
Yeah, and I look at it now. I was kind of mystified as a teenager, you know. But I look at it now, looking back on it, it was LARPing. There was no.
A lot of it is, yeah.
There was no American Nazi Party to speak of. Just a couple guys, you know, fucking talking shit in suits.
Well, like I said,
now there used to be the Bund here in America, but that was before the war. Once the war fucking, they went into what was that place, fucking that one fucking Madison Square Gardens. They actually fucking didn't they did a big fucking speech there, the Bund, which was a German American Nazi organization.
Yeah.
As soon as the war started, those guys vanished.
Yeah, they were probably like, oh shit.
Some of them did end
This looks really bad.
Some of them did end up going back to Germany though and joining the army. They had an American unit of American Germans, but they all got killed in the war. You know, they were fighting the Russians.
Oracle says, for Gwen Shamblin research, you might want to check out what Fundy Fridays has done about her. Yeah, oh my god, I love Fundy Fridays. I need to watch more of her shit. Like, she's, like, super hilarious. But yeah. So, there was that. And then, also right around this time, maybe like a year or two later, he took a road trip to a Nazi conference in Virginia. And accompanying him was the previously mentioned David Duke. Who then was just a student. But later on, if you're not from the United States, he would later be a Republican member of the Louisiana House of Representatives.
Yeah.
And was quite a vocal white supremacist. He did try to run for higher offices, but he never really made it. But he got, like, quite famous for a while. He was also a KKK Grand Wizard, so there was that. And the other person who was accompanying him on this road trip, this was a fun road trip, I'm sure. That's sarcasm, in case you didn't get that. The other guy was Don Black, who, if you don't know anything about white supremacy, this dude started out, he was a Alabama Klan boss, and he is the founder of the oldest white supremacist website, good old Stormfront, which was actually started out as a message board in the early 90s, but like the website started in like 95 or 96. It's been shut down now. Like, I think it got shut down a few years ago, but it was around for a long time, and that was like the oldest one, and it was like the most famous one too. But that was the guy, and he's still around. He's still doing this shit.
Going back to David Duke, nowadays they would call him a white supremacist today. But if you listen to what he said back then, I would probably call him more of what we call a white nationalist or a separatist. He had black friends who were in black nationalist groups like Farrakhan. They were basically segregationists. They wanted to bring back segregation. They thought that fucking white people and black people had their own destiny and they had to be separated. And you had black separatists fucking saying the same thing. He never really came out and said that white people were superior to black people. He was just saying that they had their own destiny. That was what he was saying. So, if you were to call him a white supremacist, David Duke, he would disagree. He would go, "Oh no, I'm not white. Nobody says any of that. I like black people." And he did have black friends. They were racist as fuck too, the black people that he was friends with. But they were just.
He's still a piece of shit.
It's just how you define things and how you look at things.
He's still a piece of shit, though.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
No, that's an understatement.
Yeah, segregation really didn't work out. The South had it.
Yeah, we did that shit already.
Yeah, it didn't. It's unwieldy. It's too much of a complication. Citizens are just citizens. If you try to segregate them by race, although a lot of black people got very rich on that because they had black businesses and black-owned businesses with their own, so they couldn't go to a white-owned business. So some black people got rich off of that. But in the end, that's just not healthy. World War II ended all that. Because they tried to... You had black people who wanted to join the army. They weren't being drafted. Because the white people that ran the government at the time was like, how the hell could we draft black people? They can't even vote. What right do we have to ask them to go fight for us? But you had black people volunteering. Like the Tuskegee Airmen. Because they wanted to prove that they were Americans, which good on them. So they said, okay, they took volunteers like the Tuskegee. I think they drafted some black people, but then in the end they said we're gonna fucking make it a unified army. So the U.S. Army became desegregated first. It just didn't. As the war continued, keeping people separate just by race, just the paperwork alone.
It's dumb.
It's too much work.
It's a dumb idea.
It doesn't matter what color the soldier is. If somebody gets killed, you need a replacement. Just send us a replacement.
Other than like just the moral and ethical thing about it, which obviously, but it's just kind of
unwieldy.
Even from a practical standpoint, it's a stupid idea. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but did black men not get the vote before women? I thought they did. Because women didn't get the vote until early 1920s. And I thought black men got the vote before that. Before
I think it
women
depended
did.
on the state too.
Before
I'm
women
not
did.
sure. I'm not sure.
I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure.
I think women got the vote first. And then
I think it's the other way around. But like I said, I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure that black men got the vote before women did. But
I know that some states wanted to play all kinds of games.
Like I said, I gotta look that
like
up.
three black votes were worth one white vote. That type of deal.
Just like I said, what the fuck, man?
Well, some of the southern states were heavily black.
Yeah.
And you had a white aristocracy, and they were afraid they would be voted out, basically voted out of power.
Oh, what a shame.
Well, they were trying to protect their land. That's all it was, land and wealth. So they were trying to even out the playing field, because Mississippi was, I think, majority black at certain times. You know, my family's from Mississippi, and I think after the war, or the Civil War, I think it was majority black for a while. Especially certain counties were, definitely.
Yeah, Oracle said, the 19th Amendment was passed in 1920. Yeah, that's what gave women the right to vote. Yeah, that's right. But I couldn't remember. I thought that black men were given the right to vote before women were, but I could be wrong about that. Like, I thought that I read that, but I could be totally wrong.
I think white women could vote first.
So I don't really remember. But yeah, so that was the little racist road trip there. That was super fun.
Yeah.
And then right around 1972, I believe this was his first arrest, and that was for carrying a concealed weapon. And then in what? I thought you were going to say something.
Where was this? He was carrying a concealed weapon.
I don't know where that was, but that was his first arrest anyway. That was minor compared to the shit that's coming.
That's not a big deal.
So in 1973, he moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and joined the National States Rights Party, which was a neo-fascist movement. And he also started selling a racist newspaper called The Thunderbolt. I'm like, really? It was called The Thunderbolt? Okay.
Talking about the SS runes.
Yeah. Yeah, you think you're so fucking tough. It's like, that stuff is just fucking hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Like how they're trying to be all tough and strong and everything like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just indicative of weakness when you come out with naming your shit like that.
All right. Look, you got to hand it to the Germans. They had fucking awesome marketing and awesome graphic design. Okay.
I will give them that.
Their uniforms.
It was effective for sure.
The reason why you remember them is because of their fucking their fucking visual aesthetic. And that was all created not by Hitler, but Joseph Goebbels. He was the minister of propaganda, and he was a fucking advertising genius. He took a weak, insignificant little fucking movement and turned it into a fucking global powerhouse. Just on the back of fucking graphic design.
See?
Because most of that shit wasn't real. They were portraying themselves as fucking a vast, super fucking mechanized army of fucking super soldiers. That's not who that was. It was a little bitty army with okay equipment.
They were trying to fake it till they made it.
But they were faking it until they made it. Yeah. Oh yeah, advertising and graphic design and shit.
It makes a lot of, like, look, I've been a graphic designer for more than 25 years.
Yeah.
You would be surprised at how effective certain messaging is, and they teach you all about that stuff.
And they'll come out and tell you, if you actually study all this shit, the German graphic design was a copy of the Soviets.
Yeah.
The Nazis were looking at what the Russians had, and they says, that's what we need. They saw that hammer and sickle. They fucking loved the hammer and sickle because that is a powerful symbol. What can we have? They came up with the swastika.
Well, they stole it.
They stole it. It wasn't theirs.
Yeah.
It was actually Indian.
Yeah.
But they liked it.
Like the four winds.
Yeah, and the axis on which the world turns to.
Now you can't even use it anymore.
So there was all this symbolism
for the way it was originally intended.
Yeah.
Because they fucked it up.
Yeah. So, but no, they had their fashion sense was fucking great.
Like I said, I will give them that.
The way they look.
Well,
you wouldn't remember them. Do you remember the Italian fascists? No.
Because they didn't have any style, man.
They didn't have a fucking style.
That's why.
Yeah.
I know that's funny, but that's why.
And the Japanese imperialists, you don't really remember them that much. They didn't look cool.
They didn't have their fucking graphic design game.
They didn't have the panache. those fucking uniforms that SS wore
Yeah,
were
Hugo
all
Boss.
Hugo Boss.
Yeah.
They fucking were high fashion bitches because they were into the fucking image.
High fashion bitches, yeah.
But it was mostly image. They got fucking
Yeah.
the fucking
But see,
Russians
the problem
fucked them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Numbers.
But images
yeah.
can be powerful.
Yes, very much so.
Obviously, like I said, I've been a graphic designer a long time,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I understand that concept. They do teach you about that.
Yeah,
So-
it affects the mind. It's emotion.
It is a form of manipulation.
Yeah.
I would call it manipulation.
Yeah, or influence.
I mean, I don't really
Yeah.
do it for nefarious purposes, usually. But, you know what I mean? But I understand how it can be used for that. Yeah, Oracle says Thunderbolt, Stormer, yeah, I think they're compensating for something. That's exactly the first thing that I think. Oh, it's the first thing that probably every single woman thinks when they see some dude driving this big, huge pickup truck with, like, big fucking tires and stuff like that. I'm like, how small is that dude's penis? You know what I mean? That's the first thing you think. You don't think, wow, what a badass. Nobody thinks that. I don't really know why they think anybody would. And the second that you call something... You know, the second you get some badass tattoo, it's like, man, it's a fucking big Grim Reaper with some fucking shit on it, and I'm just like gonna call my shit Stormfront, and I'm gonna do, you know what I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? That's pretty sad. But yeah, so, I don't know. They don't like being laughed at, I guess, but that's why I do it. So, the Thunderbolt, that's hilarious. Well, the first thing that I thought when I saw the name of that, the first thing I thought it was Thunderbolts and Lightning, very, very frightening. So, so I was like, so it's like a Queen song. So that's kind of nice. So in 1976, I believe he's still in Atlanta at this point. And he joined, but he was already in the Nazi Party, and he joined the Ku Klux Klan. Because, you know, going for the whole, I'm going to join all the racist groups. Might as well, right? So he joined the Klan. Now, he wasn't in there that long. And the reason that he wasn't in there that long, and this is kind of funny in a fucked up way. So he joins the Klan, and he's like, well, you know, I left the group because they were all talk. They weren't really doing anything. It's like they were all just sitting around complaining about how much they hated black people and blah, 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 but they weren't doing anything about it. So he quit. So this is a racist that's so racist that even the Klan wasn't racist enough. He's like, you guys aren't even doing enough with the racism. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go out on my own. So I kind of feel like, so at that point he decides, look, if no one's going to do anything about this, about starting this race war, then I'm going to have to do it myself. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of narcissism there too. The fact that he thought that he could start a whole ass race war, which, spoiler alert, he did not. But he did kill a bunch of innocent people. So the first thing he started doing, he didn't start out killing people ever, although he ramped up pretty quick, gotta say. The first thing he started doing was he would go out in the street, and if he saw interracial couples, he would start, like, fucking with them. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you motherfucking, you know what I mean? And probably most people were like, fuck off, freak, or whatever. I mean, I hope that's what happened. However, on Labor Day weekend of 1976 in Atlanta, he actually followed an interracial couple into like a dead-end street or an alley or something like that, and he sprayed them with mace. So, I mean, they were okay, obviously, but that's not pleasant, is it?
Yeah.
So he did that. Also that same year, because remember I said that Joseph Paul Franklin was not his birth name. He was James Vaughn. So in 1976, he legally changed his name to Joseph Paul Franklin. Why did he do that, you might be asking? Well, the Joseph was for his hero, Goebbels. That's who he named himself after. And and the Franklin was for Benjamin Franklin, which I was kind of like, okay, Ben Franklin, one of the founding fathers, if you're not from the U.S.
I don't think he would have liked the Nazis too much.
Not really known for his racist views. He was a man of his time, for sure.
Yeah.
He did own slaves in his earlier life. But his views on race softened a lot as he got older. And he kind of got to a point where he's just like, you know, they're, you know, black people, they're just like everyone else, or blah, blah, blah. And so he wasn't really, like I said, he was a man of his time for sure, but he wasn't really known as being like super racist. So I thought it was kind of weird that he would choose Ben Franklin.
Yeah. Although, no, I can kind of see it.
Maybe.
Because look.
Yeah, Oracle pointed out he started one of the first abolitionist societies in the country. Yeah, exactly.
Who?
Ben Franklin.
Yeah,
did.
yeah. But Ben Franklin did have a couple things in common with the National Socialist and German Workers' Party. Ben Franklin was a nudist. So were the Germans.
Yeah.
All right. He was also kind of like into this returning back into nature, fucking, and having an air bath and free love.
He was like a hippie.
Yeah, and,
Ben Franklin
and
was.
strangely, a lot of people don't realize that they keep thinking that the Nazis were conservatives. They weren't. They were radicals. They were nudists. They were into kind of like free love too. The SA were all homosexual. All right, but the SS wiped out the SA over a battle of who controlled the army, basically. But the Nazi Party started off as basically a gay man's military party, really. And Hitler was probably bisexual by all accounts, people that knew him. You know, it was not a real, and they were anti-Christian. They thought Christianity was a downer. They wanted more positivity, more aggression. You know, they thought that. And then another thing is that they would kind of like, especially in the SS circles, they were like, wait a minute. Jesus is a Jew. Why are we worshiping a Jew? You know, so... Ew. Ugh, you know. Why aren't we worshiping Roman gods? Because they were into that. They were trying to bring back... But they said, well, fuck the Romans, man. We've got the Norse. You know, the Italians are already there. They're our allies. We got our own. So
I mean, the Norse are pretty badass.
So they start kind of thinking about more like Norse iconography, Norse imagery, you know. The real white people.
The whitest of white people.
Even though most Germans didn't look that way.
No.
Most Germans were Alpine types, what they called. They had different classifications. That would be considered to be an Alpine type. Darker hair, green eyes, blue eyes, light skin, shorter. They weren't these big Norse types. Even though the Vikings didn't look that way. A lot of people think the Vikings, they didn't look like modern Norse people.
Well, and the thing about it, like I said, is that all throughout history, any kind of like racial stereotype, it's like, oh, they all look like this or that and the other, is always erroneous.
Yeah.
Because there's always mixing going on and has been like forever.
Yeah, and those big, tall, blonde, blue-eyed Swedes and shit is kind of a modern phenomenon. You know, 1800s, 1700s, around that time. Vikings were going way back. You know, there was, and from what they've dug up, Vikings, a lot of them are red hair. You know, red hair, black hair. Shorter.
My natural hair, anyway.
Yeah.
I have red hair and dark eyes. My natural hair, like I said, is red, like copper red.
Me and Jen are rednecks. We're from the South. That's Scots, Scottish, Irish, Wales, Northern England, some Germany, with probably mixing with some Native American too.
Yeah.
You know, so that's in there too. I still got to get my honky pedigree done.
It's
to check my DNA. We got to do it, huh?
I mean, I think it's only $100. I had it done like a long time ago, but like I said.
Oh, imagine the data you get now is pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's probably a lot better because I had it done like a long time ago. And I had it done with National Geographic. They were doing that big project because they were trying to track the human race like out of Africa, like where everybody went. So they were putting them in different haplogroups and stuff. Yeah. So I was interested and I got in on that. But I have to look up like what haplogroup I was in. I was in like the U group, which went through Turkey, what is now Turkey. But yeah, it was pretty cool. But yeah, you can do. I don't think 23andMe is around anymore, or they're going bankrupt. But there's other ones, and it's probably cheaper now than it used to be. Yeah. Yeah. Oracle said it's a shame their iconography skills were used for evil instead of good. Right? I mean, that's the thing. I'm just.
That's a point of view.
I'm just trying to sell cars with my shit. You know. What I mean?
A lot of good and evil has a lot to do with the point of view. They thought they were doing good. You can't kill a bunch of people without thinking that you're right. They were in a holy war.
Well, that's the issue, isn't it?
That's the whole thing. Is that fucking?
That's the way they get you to do shit like that.
When you are convinced you're right, and that you're doing this for a higher purpose, and you're trying to protect your people. That's when you do all that fucking bad shit.
Here's the thing. I feel like people need less confidence. Is that a weird thing to say? Because people being so convinced that they're right to the detriment of their own, like, and to everyone else around them, I think that's a real problem.
Well, yeah.
Unless you can question yourself and be like, maybe I could be wrong about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You always have to have that because you could absolutely be
The
wrong
thing
about
is,
that.
though, is I go back through history and look at the engine that drives progress in history. It's always these motherfuckers that thinking they're right, killing other people. They're the
Well, yeah,
ones-
obviously. That's what I'm saying.
They're
That's
driving it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
Right.
what causes a lot of fucking
If you just
problems.
if you had a bunch of people trying to get along, there probably wouldn't be any progress. You'd probably still be in the Stone Age.
Well, I don't know about that.
I don't think it would progress that. I don't think most of the advancement had to do because of the needs, and they needed shit to fight and to steal. There's just something about human nature, and human nature is humans are good, but there's also a dark element to human nature.
Well, yeah, obviously.
It's just the way it is.
But I don't know. I don't really know.
It's a mixture. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's one thing or other, but I'm just saying that competitive edge is what drives things forward. And we'll never get off this planet and become a multi-planet species unless you start becoming kind of aggressive, I think.
Well, in certain ways, I guess.
Because if you just laid back and chilled, you'll say, "Oh, fuck it."
Well, no, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean you should just lay back and chill. That's not what I meant at all. That's you're kind of seen as like a black and white. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people being overly confident that their way is the right way and damn the consequences. Like, I'm right and y'all are wrong and blah, blah, blah. I said that's the mindset that causes problems. You always have to, like, check yourself and question yourself.
Yeah.
Am I doing the right thing? I could be wrong about this. You always have to be, like, willing
But you have to look at it this way.
be wrong about stuff.
If everybody isn't
Which a lot of people aren't.
if everybody isn't doing this, then people who are wrong will not be wiped out of the system. The Nazis thought that way. They were wiped out of the system. Religions
Well, obviously not, because this
thought
fucker
that
was
way,
still
and they were
around.
wiped out of the system by something that was more real. Now, the Nazis were not wiped out by good. They were wiped out by fucking Russians, all right? And the fucking Soviets were almost kind of like a greater evil, but it burned out over time.
Yeah.
So,
it turned out okay in the
it
end.
turned out, and I got a lot of respect for both the Germans and the Russians, but their thinking was very absolutist.
Yeah, which is, like
But
I said, always.
But without that absolutism, you'd still have Nazis.
You still do have Nazis.
But they would still be whole nations of Nazis.
I mean,
Because
that
they
could
would have
still
been,
happen.
they just would have been a little more chilled out, and they would have
I don't know,
survived. You kind of things that are extreme. You want it to come to a head so you can get rid of it, like a zit. You want it to get bigger so you can pop it.
Well, now, yeah, I do kind of
You know what I'm talking
advocate. I know that, like, some people are like, they're talking about, like, the internet. It's like, oh my god, now we can see, like, the worst of fucking humanity, like, all in front of our faces.
Yeah.
But in a way, I think that's good because before, these people thought this shit, but
Yeah.
you didn't know.
Yeah,
Now you know.
yeah.
And you can fucking name and change.
You can look at the world's religions,
and you can maybe go to their house and beat their ass.
Look,
Not
you-
saying you should do that.
You can look at the.
I'm just saying I wouldn't be sad if that happened.
Some of the world's religions are fucking pretty nasty if you fucking actually take them for what they are.
Well, obviously.
But fucking technology and the internet is getting them to even kind of fucking realize that, hey, you know what? Not everything about this system we believe in is fucking right. You know what I mean? How are we going to survive in a fucking world of people who are differences? Because, for instance, Islam is not going to take over the world, even though they want to. But so does Scientology. Scientology can't take over the world.
That's not going to happen.
It's
guys.
not going to happen. You're going to get your ass
What's there,
kicked.
like 5 of you? Come on.
Yeah. But it just goes with anything. None of this, no religion's going to take over the world. It's going to get its ass kicked.
I fucking hope not.
No, it can't.
That would suck. No, I know it's not.
It can't.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
They mostly just annoy me.
There's some,
Like a rock in my shoe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just annoying like
And
that.
in a way, the Christians were defeated. Okay?
Well, I don't know about that, but...
Oh, yeah, they have no power. They can't come and kill us.
I don't know. Maybe
No.
that's still good.
No.
We'll see.
No.
We'll see how that
There's not
goes.
enough of them.
Oracle says, laughing at Nazis is why Mel Brooks is one of the greatest American artists. Of course, he started mocking the actual Nazis when he was serving in World War II. We should probably also do a show about Mel Brooks, I feel. Because that dude was like a fucking badass. So I'm going to write that down too. Maybe it might not ever win in the poll, but yeah, we should do a show because he had a fascinating history. You know what I mean? Yeah. Holy crap. All right. So, where was I? So, oh yeah. So he changed his name. We got off on the whole Ben Franklin thing. Because I thought that was really weird. Like, a lot of people have thought that was weird. That's why he changed his name. Because, of Goebbels, but obviously. But I was like, Ben Franklin now? I was like, yeah, like everyone was kind of racist and owned slaves back then, but he wasn't like specifically more racist than anyone else. And like I said, he got into, he freed slaves like later on and stuff, and said that he advocated freeing slaves later on. So it's just like, I don't really know why that specifically, but I don't know. Like, I'm trying to find logic in this dude's mindset, and there just isn't any. That's that's my downfall, I guess. I'm trying to like find some like logical, and these people are not logical, I guess. Another special fun thing that he did in 1976 was that he wrote a letter to Jimmy Carter, who had then just been elected president, and threatened to kill him because of his support for civil rights. So there was that. They didn't find him, though. Like, they did investigate it, but they didn't find out who it was. So a year after that, he joined the Alabama National Guard. Far as I know, he didn't really show up. I don't really know why he bothered joining, to be honest with you. Maybe because he could say he was in it. But yeah, I don't think he ever showed up for it. And in 1977 also, this is when he committed his first major bank robbery. Now, other than killing random people, he was also a pretty prolific bank robber. That was pretty much how he made his money. He didn't have a job or nothing. That's pretty much how he made his money. Like, while he was going around the country shooting people, was he would rob banks. As far as I know, like, according to the FBI website, they think that he did 16 bank robberies. At least 16, like, that they know about. That was pretty much how he got money. That and giving blood, like plasma at blood banks that, like, would pay you. He would do that too, like, go around the country, like, when the heat was on, you know what I mean? But he would usually do bank robberies. So, right around 1977, though, like, after he did the bank robbery, he starts thinking now he's gonna fucking bust out, and he's gonna start the race war, right? So, between this mass murder spree that he did, I would call it a mass murder spree, 22 people, that's pretty bad, over about a 3-year stretch, about 1977 to 1980. And he would go all around, not all around the country, but mostly like kind of the South, Midwest, shit like that. And he would keep, this was the late 70s, so you could just like change your name, like give people different names and shit, like at hotels and stuff, and they wouldn't check. You know what I mean? It wasn't like now. So he had about 18 different aliases, and he used to change his car all the time. Like, he would dye his hair different colors, like change his appearance and shit like that. That kind of thing. So he did that for like 3 years, like going around the country, like robbing banks and killing people. So that's basically what he did. So here's the thing. So his first crime, in which thankfully no one was killed, but, still, well, no person was killed. A dog was killed, I'm warning you. So this happened July 25th, 1977. So, little past 3 in the morning, there was a bomb. It was actually like a big, I think it was a bunch of dynamite, like in the trunk of a car. And it was detonated outside of a house, and this house belonged to the Jewish lobbyist Morris Amate and his family. That's where they lived. This was in Rockville, Maryland. So he tried to blow up the house. Now, the house was fucked up. I think it left like a huge crater and shit like that. Thankfully, the entire family got out and no one was hurt, but they had a beagle puppy that was only 6 months old that was killed in the explosion. When I first read that, I was just kind of like, well, you killed a fucking dog? Like, first, they should have just, like, executed him right then. Because nothing good is going to come after that. You know what I mean? And it didn't. So, you kill a dog or a cat, that's it. I'm sorry. So, yeah. Thankfully, no humans were harmed, but a dog was harmed in this bombing. Then, he decides a couple days later, he's going to do another bombing. But this one was in Chattanooga, in Tennessee. And he firebombed a synagogue. Now, the only reason that nobody was hurt in this bombing was because he bombed it on a Friday night. Like, it was detonated. I think he put it, like, underneath the floorboards or something like that. And the only reason no one was hurt was because they had a thing, I can't remember what the name of it was, but they had like some kind of thing that they were going to do like on this Friday night, and I think they needed 10 guys to do it, and only 8 guys showed up. So after, they're like, you know what, fuck it, like the other 2 guys aren't coming, so let's just go home. So they went home early, and then the bomb went off. So no one was in there when the bomb went off, thankfully. Like I said, had everybody been there that night, like a bunch of people would have been killed. But happily that did not happen, just because of circumstances. So there was that. Then, in August, early August of 1977, was his first murders. Now, this happened in Madison, Wisconsin. Now, Franklin had actually gone to Madison, Wisconsin with the intention of killing a judge named Archie Simonson. 1, because he thought he was Jewish, which he wasn't. But 2, because he had recently presided over a kind of well-known like sexual assault case involving 3 black defendants and a 16-year-old white victim. And the judge had actually, they got what he thought was too light of a sentence. Like, I think and I think they were teenagers too. Like, the charges against one of the boys was dropped, and then the other ones were they just had parole, and like they went to juvie or whatever. And the judge got some heat for that because they thought it was too lenient. But Franklin was pissed about it, and so he actually went to Madison, Wisconsin with the intention of killing this judge and also perhaps killing the 3 black defendants. However, when he got to Madison, he was at this mall, the Easttown Mall, and he was in the parking lot. And apparently he was pulling out of the parking lot, and there was a car, according to him, that was like blocking his path. And in this car was a black man named Alphonse Manning Jr. and his white wife, Toni Schwen, and their 3 children. Now, evidently, there was an altercation. Like, I think he shouted at the dude, like, hey, you're in my way, or something like that. And then the guy got out of the car and, like, started coming at him like, hey, dude, what's your problem, or something like that. And he shot the guy. And then the wife tried to get away, too, and he shot her as well. Like, shot him in front of their kids. Their kids were in the car. He didn't kill the kids, but the kids were fucking traumatized. Like, forever. Like, I think one of them actually committed suicide later.
Damn. Killed both parents.
Yeah, just in the parking lot.
Damn.
And it was the middle of the day. It was just the middle of the day. It was an interracial couple, and he didn't like it.
Asshole.
And he just shot him.
Yeah.
You know, apparently a witness saw him, but I don't think they really interviewed her to any extent, which was kind of sad.
Probably wasn't much to see.
Maybe not. But yeah,
him.
the shitty thing, like, I saw that, I don't know if this is true or not, but like I saw in one podcast about it, that it's like the kids thankfully didn't see as much as they might have because their dad's blood was all over the fucking window. Like the car window.
Yeah, hid the view, huh?
And I was like, Jesus Christ, that's fucking horrible. So, yeah, I mean, and like I said, the kids were fucked up, like, forever. Like, one of them was, like, a drug addict, and, so, like, all kind of bad shit happened. Which, obviously, that would happen if you saw your parents gunned down in front of you. For no fucking reason. You know what I mean? But those 2 were his first murders that they know of. And that was the first ones he admitted to, as well. So, there was that. And then, October 8th, 1977, he went to another synagogue. This one was in Richmond Heights, Missouri. I think he just picked this one out of the Yellow Pages. And he went there and, like, staked out. Like, he hid in this big grass. Like, there's long grass back there. And he just kind of laid down back there and, like, waited. And there was a bar mitzvah going on. Like, I can't remember the name of the kid. Like, obviously, they're turning 13. So all of his friends and family were there. And, when they started coming out after the bar mitzvah, he just started shooting at them with a hunting rifle. And he ended up killing a dude named Gerald Gordon, who was not Jewish, but he was just there because he was a friend of the family. And he also ended up wounding 2 other people, a guy named Stephen Goldman and a guy named William Ash, who actually had his pinky shot off. So, yeah, so he's just firing into a crowd at a kid's bar mitzvah. Because they're Jewish, so that's nice. And then, February 2nd, 1978, he's back in Atlanta, Georgia. And he shot another interracial couple, Johnny Brookshire, who was 22 years old. And he also shot his white girlfriend, Joy Williams. She was not killed, but she was paralyzed. And at this point, he said he heard that Hustler publisher, Larry Flynt, a very famous guy, he was mad because Hustler magazine had published a spread of like an interracial couple. And apparently he was just so incensed.
How dare they?
By seeing this while he was jerking it to some good American white people porn that he's like, I just have to kill Larry Flynt. I'm going to kill the publisher of Hustler because I don't want interracial stuff in my porn.
What was it? Who was in it?
I don't know their names. Like,
Yeah.
I saw another podcast, and I think it said what their names were because they had found the spread.
Yeah,
because this is from like 1978, I want to say. So it was Hustler 1978. You could probably put Hustler 1978 interracial.
Yeah,
It would probably
it'd
come
probably
up. I don't remember the names of the performers. I've heard them said, but I don't remember what they were. And apparently, by today's standards, they're pretty tame.
Probably nothing. Yeah.
Let
me see.
But yeah, but
Hustler 78 interracial.
Yeah, I think it was 1978, or it might have been late 1977, but I'm pretty sure it was 1970 because I don't know what Hustler magazine. It might have been an old issue he was jerking off to. I don't know, but he was like mad about it. He was mad about it. So it's like fucking. I suspect that he was probably thought it was super hot, and then he was mad at himself for thinking that it was
77.
It was either early 1978 because he shot him in early March of 78. So I'm assuming it was maybe one of the first two issues that year, or maybe like a late 1977 one. Can you look? Man, I gotta pee.
All right.
So it's like,
Yeah. I think
somebody found him somewhere. So they might be
Yeah.
out there.
I think this might be it. Okay. No, it's not that. Because there was a Desiree Cousteau when she was in Pretty Peaches, I think, if you remember that movie. Yeah. There was an interracial fucking... Yeah, but that I don't think that was Hustler. Okay, wait a minute. I think I found it. Yeah. Yeah, okay. On the cover, it's got what I guess is a black guy embracing a white woman, but you can't see their faces. He's darker than she is, but that could be a white dude with a fucking tan. He's light-skinned, if you ask me. Okay. Let's see. It's hard to believe this is the one I'm thinking it is.
Did you find it? I heard it was out there.
I
Like
think
that
it's
someone had uploaded it. Probably specifically because of this case.
Yeah. I think it's that. I think that's the cover.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
What is it? October?
October 78.
No, that's too late.
Is it? Okay.
That's too late. It would have been before. It would have been early 1978. Or late 1977. But that's what he was mad about.
It might be this. That's Desiree Cousteau.
That could be it.
She's a famous porn star.
Okay. She's just like, all right.
It's very tame.
Yeah, it is.
It's very, very
She's
tame.
like, I'll accept some dick from
It's
you.
very tame. Yeah, he's
Like
got
the
his-
look on her
he's
face.
got his dick hanging over the fucking thing.
And she's like, oh, look at it.
Yeah.
That's super funny.
Yeah, and it's not that big. So
Well,
well,
not
mad at.
not
Well, maybe
compared-
he thought that shit was big.
Well, like I said, maybe we don't know how big his
It's just-
penis is. I suspect
mean, you know, he's good size, but that's not.
I suspect
he's good size, but that's not That's not like fucking. You know,
because this dude really gives me some small dick energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really small dick energy. So
it's not like Dread, you know, fucking if you know who that is.
Right,
it's
right,
not
right.
like that.
But like I said, that was back in the old days.
Yeah.
You know, other than John Holmes, obviously, who was kind of famous for that. But I kind of feel like, there was big dicks and stuff, but you could get away with not being, because there wasn't a lot of competition. Like now, there's fucking
you're just lucky.
Now you have to be like fucking 15 inches long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Get the attention. You got to be fucking 9.
You know,
which that's not totally true because they got so many fucking dudes in there that are fucking 6 inches. You know, which a lot of guys think that's big. You know, but I'd be disappointed if I fucking looked down and saw 6 inches.
Well, what's the average? 5 point something?
Yeah, global average is even more.
I think
less. I think it's like
4.
4.5 is like global average.
I don't know what that
when you start.
is. I thought it was 5 or something.
No, that's the American average.
Oh, okay.
You start factoring in East Asia and India, no, it drops. Why do you think all that Japanese porn is censored?
Because they don't want anybody to see it.
Yeah.
They don't want anybody to see it. That's pretty funny.
That's why it's censored.
Okay.
They could basically, the guys in the porn industry there basically said that. And they're having problems getting guys to do porn in Japan. There's a huge demand for male porn stars. Yeah. Of Japanese descent.
Well, yeah.
You know.
You can't just go over there and pretend you're dead.
Shit, I go there and get a job easy. But the thing is, though, is the motherfuckers would be like, we can't shoot you from the fucking waist neck up, because we don't want the customers to know that you're not Japanese. That's what would happen.
You could just pretend to be Japanese.
Yeah,
you just can't ever show your head.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Because they want to see Japanese on Japanese action.
Yeah. Well, that's understandable.
Yeah.
So this motherfucker was apparently really, really mad that there was a interracial photo shoot in Hustler in whatever month it was. So he decided he was going to go kill Larry Flynt. And then when he found out that Larry Flynt was going to be in town, was going to be in Atlanta, like at the time he was there, he was like, oh boy. So he decided he was going to go. So what ended up happening was he goes and he waits around like at this restaurant that he knew that he always went to. And he's like waiting around and he's like, well, I'm going to shoot a few people like for target practice first. That's nice. So 2 guys come out of the restaurant though, but it turns out that guy was Larry Flynt, and it was also his lawyer, Gene Reeves. Like they'd been having lunch together. This wasn't actually in Atlanta. This was in Lawrenceville, in Georgia. So he just like shot him. Now neither one was killed. Like Gene Reeves, I think ended up being okay, but like very famously, Larry Flynt was paralyzed from the waist down, which he was for the rest of his life. So he was in a wheelchair. If you saw The People versus Larry Flynt, was a great fucking movie, by the way. They had an actor playing this guy in there. Now when did that movie come out?
Which movie?
The People versus Larry Flynt. Did you ever see that?
90s. Yeah. I didn't see. Yeah, I did see it.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
I saw it. 90s. Was it 97? Maybe.
It might have been. I saw it in the theater, but it's just like they had an actor playing this guy, but I don't remember. I guess they knew who did it, because see, the thing about it was that Franklin was never convicted for this. He just confessed to it later. It's like, yeah, that was me. Like, so they didn't know who it was for like a while until they caught him. So, okay. So then, a few months later, late July 1978, he decides, I'm not really sure entirely how he decides, like, where, because he's all over the place, man. Like, he just goes from this city to that city or whatever. Like I said, he's robbing banks, going to blood banks, whatever, giving blood to get money. And then he's just wandering from city to city. I'm not really sure how he's deciding what cities to go to or what places he's going to post up at, like, to think, oh, here's more likely is going to be interracial couples or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be a couple either. Like, it doesn't have to be a black man and a white woman. It could just be a black man and he'll just shoot them too. But, you know what I mean? Like I said, he did synagogues at first, but now he's just kind of going around just fucking shooting black men or interracial couples. So, July 1978, he's back in Chattanooga in Tennessee. And he hides out near a Pizza Hut restaurant. And he sees a black man named Bryant Tatum, and he shoots him with a 12-gauge shotgun. And he had, Bryant Tatum had a white girlfriend who he was talking to at the time, and he shot her too. Her name was Nancy Hilton. Now, she lived, but obviously not a great situation. So later on that year, I think it was, he goes back to Alabama, which is where he was born, and he meets another 16-year-old. Now, his first wife was also 16, but he married her when he was 18. Now, when he meets this 16-year-old, he's 28. So it's a little bit different, isn't it? He met her in an ice cream shop in Alabama. Her name was Anita Cardin. And he married her in Atlanta in 1979 under a fake name. Because remember how I said that he would use different names, like, wherever he went because he didn't want to get caught? So I don't even remember what name he used, like, to marry her, but it was a fake name. You can't do that anymore, but I guess you could back in the 70s. Like I said, you could fucking get on an airplane, you could marry somebody, just think,
no computers.
My name's blah blah. Okay.
Yeah.
They would just take your fucking word for it.
Yeah, no computers.
Crazy.
Without computers, you could do anything.
They didn't check.
So she was 16 in Alabama.
She was 16 and he was 28.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's above legal consent.
Right, but
legal consent probably would have been 14 at that time.
The thing about these kind of dudes is that they really like younger girls because they can control them. Like I said, a woman their age or older wouldn't put up with their crap. So that's why they always go after fucking teenagers.
You're looking at it a little bit the wrong way. A woman his age back in these days would have been married. They didn't have single women his age. They all got married early. My mother got married, she was like 20.
My mom got married at 18.
Yeah.
Well, she got married when she was 18.
So 16 to 18 is when they were unmarried.
But they got married because they were pregnant with me.
Yeah. So his only that's what was yeah. It was not a chaste time. It never was. Fucking them motherfuckers were wild. Okay. You didn't have internet porn. If you wanted sex, you had to do it. But no, he buried her because she was available. Anything that was his age would have been married. And then when you start talking about 20s, if she's 22, 23, then she might be a floozy. Why isn't she married already? It was just the mentality.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
And she must be a hooker. You know, that was just the mentality of the time, the culture of the time. So, and if she was divorced, then oh fuck, you didn't want that. Hell no, not back those. Yeah. Well, divorce. Most people didn't divorce. So you only divorced if there was something fucking seriously wrong. You definitely weren't going to take care of somebody else's kids. So, I don't know. That's why you saw a lot of that, especially in the South.
Tetsuo said Jen cracks me the hell up. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty funny, if I do say so myself. Big Dog said, I think he was attracted to black men. You know, there might be something to that.
I think it was envy.
Yeah. Which is kind of the same thing. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
the same thing, but it's on
envy.
on a similar spectrum.
Yeah.
Which if he would have just admitted it, then all those people would still be alive.
He might have had some magical thinking involved, you know what I mean? Because even back in these days, they had fucking, you know, all this stuff about, you know, black dudes had fucking superior fucking sex drives and fucking, you know,
Bigger cocks.
yeah, fucking big dicks.
Well, they still have that. The BBC. That's
Yeah,
the
still
thing.
have all that. Yeah, but so
That's a
therefore,
whole porn category.
So therefore,
That's
you know what I
massive
mean?
porn
He's
category.
feeling slightly emasculated, and he sees a photo shoot of fucking white women with these dudes. He says, "Oh man, I'm being pushed out of the market." Kind of like, dude, they're 13%. Fucking black people are 13% of the population of the available male fucking breeding population of the blacks would probably be like fucking 3%, 4%.
The hilarious thing about that
Why are you
to
fighting?
me,
You're worried about 4% of the population.
the hilarious thing about that to me is that dudes will get all bent out of shape about seeing like a porn shoot, it's like you're not going to get that chick anyway.
Yeah.
Even if that black dude wasn't in the picture. Yeah. So it's like, what the fuck are you? He's taken
it's in his
her
mind.
away from you.
Desiree Cousteau was a fucking porn star.
She doesn't know you.
And was a porn star. She was cute.
Stop it.
And she ended up getting pretty big boobs by the time the 80s came around. And she was probably also an escort. All right, and a dude like him fucking wouldn't date her probably. Or she definitely wouldn't date him. She'd be like, oh no, I got clients to see or some shit like that. You don't have anything. You don't have any money. Fucking.
He's like, I could go rob a bank.
Worried about was he worried about some chick, what she did? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what.
You're always extrapolating and imagining.
That's what cracks me up. Yeah, that's what kind of cracks me up about because it's like, what kind of narcissist?
Yeah.
Like actually gets mad at a woman they don't know.
It's at him. She's doing it at me.
I kind of feel like a lot of dudes, like a woman does something that doesn't even know you, does something, and they think they're doing it at them. I'm like, she doesn't even know you, bro.
Go on Twitter.
She's just living her fucking life. She doesn't even know you exist.
All you got to do is go on Twitter.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
Go on Twitter and look at some of those fucking porn accounts and see what dudes from other countries are saying. They're doing that. How dare you?
That's crazy.
You're down in the Middle East. What are you worried about, dude? She has nothing to do with what you're doing. You're from another fucking planet.
She does not even know you exist.
Yeah, you're from another fucking planet.
You will never meet her. You will never talk to her.
Yeah.
You'll just...
Yeah. She's in a totally different world than you.
And even if you did, she would not go out with you.
Yeah, she'd laugh at you.
So what the fuck? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, and you're trying to tell this chick... You're trying to tell that chick how to... Trying to tell that chick how to live.
Yeah, like who the hell do you think you are?
And here's another thing, me and Jen, we've done stuff fucking on video, fucking just because you see some chick doing some video for her OnlyFans or something, that's not a real accurate representation of how that chick lives. Not at all. A lot of times they don't have the money you think that they have. A lot of times they're married or have boyfriends, and the dudes you're seeing her fuck with is not the boyfriend or the husband. A lot of times they're just going through the motions. They're just for them, it's just like a job. Look, we gotta get this shit done. There are fucking cameras everywhere. It's fake. A lot of it. Even if it's just with a phone, they're using the cell phone to make it look spontaneous. It's still planned.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's like, we're gonna make this look like it's just off the fucking cuff. There were times that me and Jen would be throwing down, and I'm thinking, man, where's Jen's phone? Because we can make money off this shit right now. You need to start bringing your phone, put that shit by the side of the bed. We can make all kinds of money. But the thing is that it's very different when you plan it out.
Yeah.
It kind of puts it, every time we did something that was planned, it kind of puts performance anxiety.
It's not as fun.
You know what's going to happen.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of hot, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's more mechanical because you know what has to happen.
Yeah, it's like, wait, do we look good from this angle? We have to look at the camera. It's like, no, that doesn't look good. Let's try this instead. Or it might have been something that somebody hired us to do. Right.
Like a custom video. So, it's like, okay. Or something live.
Yeah. So you have to figure out how that's going to look the best. So you're not really doing it for you. You're doing it for them. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that it's like you don't really get as much out of it as probably they do. Yeah, it's not as fun as like when we just do it.
It's not as fun when you're just like throwing down and says, "Give me your phone." But I guarantee you, 99% of that shit you're finding on fucking X Hamster or Pornhub is not spontaneous.
No. Well, like I said, because most of the shit that's spontaneous doesn't look that good on video.
Well, no, some of the new shit is they're trying to make it looks bad.
Yeah.
And so it looks real spontaneous. Well, but then you look and see who's in this and goes, man, that's a fucking semi-pro porn star chick.
Right.
That's not some chick at her mom's house with her boyfriend, after school. Right. That's not what that is. You go, I know that chick, and she's, what I mean? Yeah.
Once you get to be kind of well known, you can't really disappear into those roles anymore. You're not that dude's stepmom. Stop it.
No, cell phone porn's a big fucking seller now because it looks spontaneous. But even
and people like that. I like that. I like even if it's not. I know how the shit works. So it's like I know that it's not amateur, but I like amateur better.
Yeah.
And generally I like porn that's made by people that are actually a couple in real life. Yeah. Because it's just I don't know. I just like that. Even if they fuck other people.
Yeah.
I kind of like watching their shit because it's like that they would be doing that anyway. So that's hotter.
And even that isn't very spontaneous because what they've done is they've hired talent to come in and work with them. And you go, man, he did that to that dude's wife and shit. That particular dude that you're talking about doesn't see it the same way you do. He's like, oh yeah, no, he's cool, dude. We're just making a video. You know,
Yeah.
look at the size of his dick, man. Fucking look at this shot. It looks great.
Yeah, they don't.
We're gonna make all kinds of money.
Personalize.
It's not
it
really
in the same
personalized.
way.
Yeah.
Which,
Dude's-
like I said, we don't
dude
really.
busts a nut on her face, and he's like, "Oh, that was beautiful."
Yeah, we don't really do that, but it's
No,
like we don't do
We
that.
don't do this. We don't not that far.
We
But here's the
haven't done
thing.
But I get how people get like that.
That dude will tell you, that ain't no big deal. But if I ever catch them motherfuckers holding hands, eating ice cream out of the fucking Dairy Queen and shit, fucking behind my back, I'm gonna fucking go crazy. That's
Yeah, because that's like
'Cause that's
intimacy.
affection. Yeah,
affection.
yeah.
That's two different things.
Yeah,
Like I said, some people can separate it, and I get that.
yeah.
I can't really, but
Yeah, but
I
understand
can,
how
I can see how people
I
can.
see how they do it. Yeah.
I see it.
I understand it.
And like I said, I think I understood it more when
Once-
we did Stream Mate and videos and stuff. Even
Yeah.
though we weren't doing anything with other people,
Right.
I understood how you could get to that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where you were
it's-
separating.
You're putting on a show.
Yeah, because like I said, we were doing shit, but it's just kind of like it was for a person that was
We're-
watching us, and it's just kind of like we were doing shit they wanted.
Yeah.
So it
We're
was just
putting on
like
a show.
Yeah, it was like a
Customer.
performance. It wasn't
Yeah.
really like what we wanted to do or anything,
Yeah.
or what we would be doing if no one was looking at us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it doesn't quite feel the same.
No, it doesn't. Like it's still fun, like I said, but it's not.
Not fun for the same reasons.
It's not fun for the same.
Putting on a
reasons.
show is fun.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
It's
than
more-
what,
it's more than
more
that.
than what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Leslie Ann says these shows are riveting. LOL for real.
Really?
Well, I mean, we try. But you know, so Big. Yeah, did I say Big Dog say he was? I think he was attracted to black men, or he might have been attracted
Yeah.
to black women too. But I don't know. But like I said, dudes like this, it's got to be something going on. Like, why the fuck would you care
That
that much?
BBC porn upset him. And what's funny is
A
that
lot, apparently, enough for him to shoot Larry
yeah,
Flynt.
the dudes that get upset about that are incels. Fucking they can't
Exactly.
get rid of. All right, fucking I come from a fucking background, an upbringing of fucking plenty. You know, I always fucking had no problem with women, and everything was fun, and everything was positive. I see that shit, and I just say, "Oh, she's having fun. Look at it, dude's having fucking." You know, I always was like, "That's hot." I don't care. How is this taking from me?
Well, see,
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. I think that
Yeah.
dudes, particularly that have that incel kind of mindset,
Yeah,
which this
yeah.
dude might have had,
Yeah.
even though he had wives, but they were,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't stick around that long. You know, his first marriage lasted all of 4 months, which, okay. But the thing about it is that they think everything is directed at them. It's like this,
Yeah.
this solipsistic.
Yeah.
The whole world is against me. It's
Yeah.
just like that woman doing that to some other person. I don't know either one of them, but somehow that diminishes me. I don't really understand that. That takes a lot of, like I said, that takes a lot of narcissism to put yourself. That's main character syndrome, is what that is.
Yeah.
Because you think that people that you don't even know are doing shit at you.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very harmful way of thinking. And I think that that's behind a lot of the incel kind of shit.
Yeah.
Because they think all these women are out there doing stuff at them.
Yeah. That's a woman I could have had. And he got
Which
it.
they-
But it was just
no.
ridiculous. No, man, that's a model. Or no,
Like
that's
I said, you don't know her.
that's a porn star.
She
Or-
lives in another country, or
Yeah,
you'll
right,
never
yeah.
meet her.
Right. Or she grew up in a black neighborhood. That's her culture. She
Yeah.
just happened to be, that was the dudes that are around her, and that's her culture. And that's
That is crazy.
It
That is
happens,
that
but-
is mental illness. That is mental
Yeah,
illness,
yeah.
is what that
It
is.
happens both ways here in the United States. You have black people that grow up around white people and end up with white people. You have white people that grow up around black people and end up with black people. Because that's just they grew up.
Well,
with
that's what
and
you
that's
grow
what
up
they
around.
know.
That's what you're used to.
Yeah, they have the fucking dialect and everything. You know what I mean? They're not just talking white. That's just how they talk. They went to high school with white people and fucking hang out with white people. The same thing with these fucking like white girls that can fucking do fluent ebonics and shit. Well, they grew up that way. They grew up talking that way.
Yeah, I knew some girls like that.
Yeah, if you put them in an
Yeah,
all,
they grew up in those neighborhoods.
You
So
put
it's
them
like
in an
that's just
all-
how they talked, because
Yeah.
that's how everyone else around them
yeah,
talked.
you put them in an all white situation and they're going to stick out. They're going to kind of feel uncomfortable there. You know, fucking and although look, most white people marry white people. Most black people marry black people. Because of where we hang out in these goth clubs, most of the black guys that I know have white wives.
Yeah.
Most of the black
Or
women we
Hispanic.
know have white husbands.
Yeah.
But it was because it was just statistics. They're hanging out with white people. You're going to meet white people. That's who you're going to fucking match with. Just how it is. It's not any kind of fetish or anything like that. It's not.
No, that's
When
just
you
who they're
know them,
around all
it's
the
just they're
time.
just normal people.
That's who you're around all the time.
Yeah,
Like I said, the
super
goth scene is in Florida. It's still largely white, but
largely white and Hispanic.
largely white and Hispanic
Half
in
and half.
Florida. Yeah, it's probably maybe
Close to half and half.
60-40, something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a small black contingent also.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's mostly white, so most people are going to end up with white people, just
Yeah.
because, just from a statistical point of view,
And most
because
of
they're into the same shit that we're into. So
Yeah.
it's like,
And most of the black girls grew up in white neighborhoods, in white schools, or mostly white schools. And that's just where they ended up because of the music and their culture. Most of the black dudes that are in the goth scene are ex-military. Because they go into the military and they hang out with a bunch of white dudes. They start getting into that shit. And when they get out of the service, they want to hang out with fucking, you know what I mean, fucking the mainstream. You know, they don't want to go back to their little neighborhood. They want to go back to the big world that has everybody in it. Hispanics and fucking whites and black people. And chances are, they're going to hook up with a white chick. Because there's so many of them. And it's natural. It's just normal.
yeah, it's just who you're around. And like I said,
We got to
it's-
have Will on the show. I
Yeah.
fucking show pictures of Will.
It's kind of more,
Yeah.
like I said, in our case, it's kind of more just, it's all people that are into the same shit.
Yeah, we're all the same music and stuff.
So that's kind of like the top consideration. Like,
Yeah.
nobody really thinks so much about what race
Yeah.
you are or anything like that. It's just
Yeah.
everybody's into the same music and the same culture.
Yeah,
as
when I was looking for a date or girlfriend, I never really focused on what color she was. I was focused whether or not she was goth.
yeah.
'Cause that's where clubs I was going to. Had things turned out differently, fucking like there's one of them named Sherry she's married. But
Yeah, she's
had I
married
met
now.
Sherry when she was single, I'd have dated her.
She's cool as hell.
Yeah, she's a DJ.
She's a DJ in Tampa.
Yeah, Sherry's cute. You know, and
She's
very-
a super cool person.
Yeah, super
she's
cool.
super cool.
So, like, you say, well, you can't do that. She's another race. Well, what are you talking about, man? She's goth. She's cool as shit. It don't matter. And then the same thing with Crystal. Crystal's an entertainer. She comes to the scene. We just saw her a couple weeks back.
Yeah, she works at Universal.
Yeah, she's a model. Beautiful model. Universal
she's
Studios.
ridiculously gorgeous.
Yeah. Fucking.
She's like perfect.
Yeah. She just posted videos on her little fucking thing. Maybe I'll show her. She's dressed up as basically a succubus with big fucking white wings and shit.
And what's awesome about her
Damn
too
near
is
nude
that,
in public.
like, not only is she like physically perfect,
She's fucking hilarious.
but she is an awesome person.
Yeah, I'm gonna
she
show-
is
I'm
super
gonna show-
nice.
She's hilarious.
She's super funny.
Yeah.
She just has a great personality too.
She's married to a corporate artist named Spider.
Spider, yeah.
And he can paint these gigantic, huge murals.
Yeah, he paints murals
They're
everywhere.
beautiful.
He's
Yeah.
super cool too.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know him that well. Like, he doesn't come out that much, but she does.
But go ahead and talk. I'll show her when I find her. I gotta fucking get her. Fucking
Okay, I'm gonna talk about more shootings though. I hate to
Okay,
say.
hold on.
Yeah,
She changed her name.
I don't remember what her name was before. CB says you're perfect too, Jenny. Well, thank you very much. I like to think that I'm the perfect me, because there's no other me, so I don't have any competition in that area. So that's how I like to think of it. But yeah, so where were we? So yeah, he married another 16-year-old when he was 28. So, like I said, yeah, it was another time. Still a little weird. Sorry. And he married her under a fake name, which I thought was kind of hilarious that you could do that back then. So then, he does another shooting. July 12th, 1979. There was a guy named Harold McIver. He was 27. He was a black man. He actually managed a Taco Bell in Doraville, Georgia. And this motherfucker just shot him through the front window from like 150 yards away because he was talking to a white woman.
Yeah. That's her. Yeah, with her wings on.
Yeah, she's cool as hell too.
Yeah.
Like I said, she's super, super funny. She's super sweet.
Yeah. And she works for Universal Studios. But I don't know what project this is. Look at those fucking wings.
Yeah, I don't know what character she's playing now. She used to play Storm. She might still.
Yeah, it's another character.
And we went, she played a voodoo queen at their Halloween thing.
Yeah.
I remember that because she showed me the videos from that.
That's what she looks like without her stuff on. She's bald.
Yeah, she didn't have no hair.
Yeah, she saves all because she's always wearing some kind of a wig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told her one time, I was like, man, I wish I looked good as you bald.
Yeah. Look at those fucking wings
So I
on.
just shaved my head. That would be awesome.
Yeah. He's doing that at some fucking convention.
You messed the lighting up.
Oh, sorry. That's what she looks like as a goth. Yeah. She's about what? Maybe 6 feet?
Yeah,
No.
she's very tall. She's quite tall.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
All right. Okay, so I can get back to this now?
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, he shoots a black man through the window of a Taco Bell. He was the manager of the Taco Bell. And he was talking to a white woman. So he shot him. And he killed him. And that dude was 27. That was in Doraville, Georgia. And then he moves on to Falls Church, Virginia. August 18th, 1979. He's hanging out at some fast food restaurants, I've noticed. Like, he shot a lot of people at fast food restaurants. And he killed a dude named Raymond Taylor at a Burger King in Falls Church, Virginia. He just fucking shot him for rib guts. Like I said, he was probably hanging out with a white girl, and he didn't like it, so he fucking shot him. A couple days after that, his daughter was born, and I was like, wait, this motherfucker has a kid? Yes, he has one kid. He has a daughter. Her name is Laura or Lori. I've heard both. And apparently the daughter, I mean, she was only, I think she was like less than 1 year old, like when he got caught. So she didn't really know him, thankfully. But I think she did go to visit him later on, like maybe before he got executed. But I don't really know how that like fucking worked out. You know what I mean? Hopefully she turned out okay. I don't know if she did. So October 21st, 1979, he kills another interracial couple, Jesse Taylor, and he had a white wife named Marion Brissett, and he killed them both in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Like I said, just randomly, he was just lying in wait for an interracial couple to walk by. He saw them, and he just shot them and killed them. January 8th, 1980, he kills another black man at another fast food restaurant. This time it was a Church's Chicken in Indianapolis, and he killed a man named Lawrence Reese, who was 22. And then only about a week after that, he killed another man who was 19 named Leo Watkins, and he shot him through a plate glass window of a convenience store, also in Indianapolis, like in a shopping mall. Now a couple months after that, in April of 1980, shockingly, not really, him and his wife split up because his wife was probably like, yeah, fuck off. And I think they'd only been married 10 months. So his first marriage, 4 months. Second marriage, 10 months. He doesn't have a real great track record. Gee, I wonder why that could be. I'm not really sure if she knew. I think that at least one, like, I think the second wife said, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that I read that he had told her that he killed some people. I don't know if he was trying to impress her or... Because I'm like, look, if you came to me and said, hey, just look, I shot some random innocent people, aren't I cool? Yeah, I'm calling the cops. Get the fuck out of my face. You know what I mean? I don't really know.
What like, I went on my racial cleansing mission.
That's what he thought it was.
Yeah.
Racial cleansing.
Is that what he says? Yeah.
He thought he was going to cleanse the world.
He's cleansing the world.
I can't believe he messed the lights up like that again.
Yeah, I fucking
It's so
like
bright.
That. How does that shit happen like that? Put your finger over there and hold it for a minute.
I did.
Hold it for a while. All right, look, people, we're blacked out. You're in total darkness.
Wow.
It's kind of like something from the fucking Haunted Mansion.
Nope. Didn't work.
It's on you.
No, it's not on me. It's on you. You're the one that did it. You're the one that insists on putting stuff up there all the time and messing the lighting up.
It has something to do with the fucking lighting.
So I guess
we're gonna get a better camera.
I'm just gonna be like that.
I'm gonna buy a better camera. I'm gonna buy a better camera.
Maybe I can. I don't know if I can fix it. Well, I don't really want to do that.
I'm gonna try to buy a better camera. I'm gonna get fucking one of those 4K cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the this is a little bitty bullshit little camera we got stuck on the top. They have some of the people's cameras that I've been seeing for streaming are fucking huge, man. And but they're it's like crisp. It's got good definition.
I don't know if I want that good of a definition.
Okay.
I don't want to see all my pores and all that.
Yeah. But we'll see.
It's like, hey, you want to see all my pores, my
That was
nose
like
hairs,
a
and all that?
$40 camera. I think a good camera is like $200.
Well, I know, but it's just
Yeah.
kind of like we had better ones, but I don't know. This one's been working okay, but it's just you can't hold shit up to it or it changes the lighting. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of scared to fuck with the settings like in the middle of shit because who knows what might happen. Yeah, CB said, I know, Jenny, it's a shock to find out this asshole has a set of balls. Right? I don't know. I was kind of shocked when I found out he had a kid. I know a lot of them do, but it's just kind of like, really? This dude impregnated somebody and she took it to term? You know what I mean? Ugh. I'm glad that his daughter didn't really know him because he got caught when she was a baby. So, you know what I mean? So, after, not too long, about a month after him and his wife broke up, he killed a white woman, a pretty young one, named Rebecca Bergstrom. Now, he was hitchhiking. She was a student. She was a student, and he picked her up hitchhiking. And evidently, this is something he did a lot. Like, he would pick up hitchhikers or sex workers or whatever, and he would immediately, because some of the ones that escaped him would say later on, the dude was, like, not shy about how fucking racist he was. Like, he'd pick you up, he'd drive down the street a little bit, and then he'd be like, suddenly, how do you feel about black people? Would you ever date a black man? Like, that's so gross, blah, blah, blah. Like, he would get, like, way into it, like, immediately. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't shy or cagey about it or nothing. So, evidently what happened in this case, according to him, was that he had picked her up hitchhiking, and he ended up killing her because during one of his tirades where he was asking if she would date a black man, she said, yeah, I dated a Jamaican man. So he killed her and dumped her body in central Wisconsin, and then they found her later in Toma.
I missed part of this. Who is this chick?
It's just a student, like a college student. He picked her up hitchhiking. She's white.
Okay,
he started off
he purity
with,
tested her.
Well, like I said, he would do that a lot. Like, according to, like, sex workers and people that have been hitchhiking and stuff, they said he would start in, like, right away.
Really?
Like, with the racist shit. Like, have you ever dated a black person? Like, and he would just start about, like, N-word this and N-word that. And it's just, like, it was just...
She must have fucking...
Immediately.
She must have not detected she was dealing with a fucking nut.
Maybe not. Yeah, because probably you wouldn't... But maybe he just, like, right out the gate...
Yeah.
Just said that, and she was
like,
like,
"Yeah, I said, oh no, I think if I was some chick, I would have detected that immediately." Like,
well, I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't there, so it's just kind of like he might have come across as totally normal. Who knows?
Was she telling the truth, or was she fucking with him? Did she actually date a fucking?
Well, I don't know.
It could have been okay. It wasn't mentioned because that could have been. He said it in a way that pissed her off, and she was, "Oh no, yeah, I dated a Jamaican guy, a whole busload of them. Fucking yeah, I was fucking yeah." Just to fuck with him.
Yeah, I fucked a whole football team of black men, okay?
Yeah, well, you know, and fucking, you bitch.
The fuck are you asking me for? None of your fucking business, is it?
That's fucking funny, man.
You're just mad because I won't fuck
Men
you.
are men, man. Get over it. Men are men.
I don't have to like
Women
it.
do what they want to do at the time. Same thing with men. And I don't understand why you're fucking jealous, because fucking that motherfucker would probably, if he saw a fucking hot-ass black chick, he'd dive right into it, probably.
Well, that's the stupid thing about it. Is I do kind of feel like a lot of these dudes that have these views...
They probably couldn't hold themselves to the same test.
No, of course they wouldn't. But, you know...
Or those same standards, I mean...
They have, like, all kind of mental gymnastics they go through to, like, make it okay for them. But it's not okay for anybody else.
They're just worried about what the woman's doing.
Yeah.
Like, they own those women.
Yeah. Because we're inferior, I guess.
No, they own... They possess them.
I'm going to say racism and misogyny go together pretty much all the time. Pretty much all the time. Because anytime you have a mindset where you think you're superior, like it's a kind of hierarchical, like, yeah, women and other races are going to be below you. So I kind of feel like those two things go together.
Maybe I'd have to think about if they go together.
No, they do go together all the time. All the time. I kind of feel like racists are also misogynists and vice versa. Pretty much 100% of the time.
I'm trying to check.
At least in my experience. So,
well, it might be the same kind of personality.
That's what I mean. It's the same mindset.
Yeah.
It's the same mindset.
Yeah.
So, it's not surprising that that goes together all the
It's
time.
control.
Yeah,
I think it's
like I
just
said,
more
you
about
think
control.
it's a hierarchy and you're on top. Everyone else is below you. You know? And anytime you think like that, then anyone that's not like you, a woman or another race or anything like that, is going to be inferior.
I don't know if racism is always about supremacy, because some of these fucking people that go out and kill up people of other races are thinking that they are oppressed. Say, one of the reasons why the fucking Germans went after the Jews, because they thought the Jews were oppressing them. All right, so they didn't feel superior. In fact, they're trying to combat feelings of inferiority.
But the feelings of inferiority were not justified.
The thing is you're dealing with the human mind. Justification
Well,
has
I
a lot
know
to
that.
do with it. It's
I know that.
it's just perception.
Yeah.
That's how they perceived it.
Yeah, that's how they were wrong, like from a reality standpoint. But yeah, that's how they perceived things. A lot of people with this kind of mindset have a victimhood or a culture of grievance, I want to say. They always think that everyone's picking on them or oppressing them or something like that. That's a very, very common, and it's kind of pushed by people at the top who benefit from people having those views. They will play into that. You know what I mean? That culture of grievance.
I'm trying to go into the way Nazis actually thought at the time. It's off topic, but they thought rich and powerful Jews took over their country and were also fucking with them with the international fucking marketing and banking system. They're talking about the Rothschilds, really, is what they're talking about. They were Jewish, big Jewish banking family. And then they thought a bunch of poor Jews were being fucking flooded into their country from Russia, because Jews were running from Russia. Okay, they weren't about all that, not all of them. So when you ask from a German point of view, a German ethnic German point of view, you had Jews above them and Jews below them, crushing them. All right, and you could, with using mass marketing and fucking, you could make it seem that way. They believed it.
Well, that's what I just said.
But it may have been partially true. I mean, you know, there are a bunch of
well, there might have been a kernel of truth to it, but like I said, they're going to take that and they're going to make
blow
it into this
was,
whole...
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
It was more of an overreaction than everything. Like, for instance, they were worried about communism. The Jews that came into their country fucking running from communism could have been recruited to help them to fight the communists. But they were like, oh, no, we don't want these
they didn't
people
think
at all.
that, did they?
Yeah, we don't want them here at all.
Because they had a common enemy.
Right, yeah. Right. So...
But that would have took, like, logic.
I mean, I've looked into so many different experts' fucking opinions. The Nazis failed because they were Nazis. Their racial policy actually helped them fail. Because there were a lot of Jewish people and a lot of people that they were fucking killing would have helped them fight the communists. Their main enemy was communism, not Jews. They just thought that communism was a product of Jews. They had a big fucking... Because Karl Marx was Jewish, so therefore fucking, and Lenin, and like they're all Jews, so therefore all Jews are responsible for communism. They saw Jews as monolithic, which that's when you get into trouble.
That's another mistake.
That's when you get into trouble. Monolithic, if you know what I'm talking. They thought that the Jews were all the same. It's the same way that they say black people are all the same, white people are all the same.
Well,
They're
that's
not.
how a lot of incels think about all women.
All women are the
all
same.
All women think like this,
like
we're the Borg or something.
Yeah, you can't think in monolithic
Everybody's
terms.
fucking different.
Yeah, in each group, everyone is an individual, and there's different factions inside that group. They're not unified. The Jews that the Germans were worried about were not unified. There were a bunch of different factions of them. Some of them were the Orthodox, some of them were atheists, some of them were communists. They weren't all the same, you know.
Well, from the outside, if it's an other,
Right.
then it's easy to make them just seem like you said, a monolith.
Yeah. It's
When you
one
get
thing.
inside the shit,
Yeah.
you see like all the nuance.
Right.
You can't see the nuance from the outside.
A Nazi would rationalize it. Well, they're chaos. We need to get rid of all of them. We want simplicity. We just want one thing. So it always
That's
gets
not gonna
back
work
down
either.
to that same fucking thing of simplification. And the ultimate simplification is collectivization. Is to put everybody into big groups. Which you always get fucked when you collectivize.
Because the world isn't like that.
The world isn't about fucking.
It's
big
not
collective.
simple.
No.
I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah.
And simple solutions are never correct.
No. No, there's
Everything's just too complicated.
There's too many
I know it's
different
hard,
kinds
but
of
that's just the
goddamn
way
people.
shit is. That's just the way shit
there
is.
are black people I have more in common with them than I have other white people.
You just have
It
to
just
deal
depends
with
on
it.
the kind of person you're talking about.
You know?
Yeah.
Anytime you try to like simplify shit like that, it's always wrong.
Yeah.
Always wrong. And always has
It's
like
too
really,
complicated.
Yeah. Like I said, shit's like really complicated. And did I fix it? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to.
When you're
fix
dealing
it
with
later.
race, a lot of it has it's culture, but also it's also kind of superficial. It's looks. You know what I mean? You see somebody's looks, and you already go like, "Well, they're going to be like this, or they're going to be like that." Well, they might be that way to a certain extent, but they're also an individual. You know.
I really try not to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, stereotyping. I try not to stereotype anybody.
I stereotype people based on their energy. I can just feel that's a bad motherfucker right there.
Well, yeah, like I said, if
The way-
somebody
just the
comes
way he's
at me with
carrying
like
himself,
some
the way he
asshole
looks,
kind of,
yeah.
like with body language or something,
Yeah,
if they seem
yeah.
like they're going to be an asshole, then yeah, I'll be like,
Yeah.
that's probably an asshole.
White dude walked up on Jen one time at the fucking club that one time, and I just went up and that's my wife, and he was like, "Ugh." I could just tell.
Well, I
Motherfucker
could
was-
tell too. I was creeped
Motherfucker
out
was just predatory.
immediately.
Yeah, and you know, so
Some people just telegraph it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they know they're doing that.
right.
But yeah. All right, so let me get back to this. All right, because otherwise I'll never finish. All right, so where was I? So he killed a woman that he picked up hitchhiking because she dated a Jamaican man. Then in late May of 1980, he did not kill, but wounded, a civil rights activist, the president of the Urban League at the time, Vernon Jordan Jr., quite well-known individual. He actually saw him with a white woman. This was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he shot him. He survived, thankfully. He wasn't paralyzed like Larry Flynt was, but yeah, he was pretty badly wounded. And he did target him specifically for that reason, because he was Urban League president. June 8th, 1980, he killed 2 young teenagers. Daryl Lane, who was 14, and Dante Brown, who was 13. They were cousins. This was in Cincinnati, Ohio. And the 2 of them he had actually gone there not planning to kill anybody in particular, but he was just on this overpass and was waiting for, an interracial couple to happen by, which seemed to happen a lot to him, I guess. I don't know if he was waiting around a lot and it didn't happen or whatever. But he was doing that, and then he saw these 2 boys. They were actually going to the fucking candy store, if you can believe that. Like, just 2 wholesome, like, little cousins. They're going to the fucking candy store to get some fucking candy. And he just fucking shot at him. He shot him.
Killed him.
Yeah.
Damn.
One of them he killed outright, and the other one he killed, and they took him to the hospital, but he died later, like
Shot
the
the
next
little
day.
black boys.
Yeah, 2 little teenagers.
Damn.
And like I said, that seemed like the only crime, when they asked him about it many years later, that he was kind of about. Like, he didn't really want to talk about it. It seemed like his foot was kind of going like that.
Yeah.
And, well, I didn't know how old they were. It was far away, and I thought they were, like, 19 and blah, blah, blah. So he obviously felt kind of... So he did have, like, a smidgen of conscience, I guess. He felt kind of bad because they were children. But then he kind of ruined it by going back and saying, I used to go to all those Klan meetings, and they would say stuff like, well, if it's a rattlesnake, it doesn't matter if it's a grown rattlesnake or if it's a little rattlesnake. You still kill the rattlesnake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They didn't grow up to be bad.
So he kind of tried to
That's
go
what he said.
that way too. And this was many years later, like when he supposedly reformed, which I don't believe.
Yeah.
But because he did bring that back up. So he was kind of trying to, I don't know if he was trying to justify it, but he was trying to make himself feel better about it, I guess. And then, June 25th, 1980, he shot and killed a 22-year-old Arthur Smothers, who was a black man, and Kathleen McCullough, who was 16. They were walking across the Washington Street Bridge in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And basically, he just kind of was doing the same thing. He would kind of hide where he could see an overpass or like a bridge or something, and he would just hide back there with his gun like all day. I guess he had nothing better to do. And he would just wait for like an interracial couple or black people to walk by, and he would just fucking shoot at them. So he killed both of them too. Then, June 25th, 1980, he killed 2 white hitchhikers. Nancy Santamero, who was 19, and Vicky Durian, who was 26. he picked them up in West Virginia, and evidently he decided to kill them after one of them said that they had a black boyfriend. Now, interestingly, another person, Jacob Beard, was actually convicted of this crime in 1993 and imprisoned. And he was in jail for 6 years before they let him out, like, after Franklin, like, confessed to it.
I see why they're classify this guy as a serial killer. This does have a sexual motive. He's doing this out of sexual jealousy
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like I said, even though he went out of his way to kind of deny, he was trying to distance himself from serial killers like Ted Bundy and stuff like that, because it wasn't the same. They have their own thing going on, but
the more I see this, what he is he's a regretful cuck. They got some dudes that
that's
are
a good way of putting it.
They're into being cucks. All right.
Oh wait, Tetsuo said how many people did this jag off unalive? Anyway, they think it's 22.
Yeah. What he was
convicted of 8, but they think it was 22.
You got a sexual fetish. You got dudes that like to be cucked out, seeing their wife being fucked by some other dude. About half the time, it's a white dude fucking want to see his wife get nailed by a black dude, and then be humiliated. He wants to be humiliated by it. Okay. He wants to be small. He wants her to tell him his fucking dick is small, all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
Okay. He was one of those.
Yeah, probably.
But he didn't enjoy it. In a weird way, these dudes that are cucking like that enjoy it. There's a whole subculture of it. You can look up, and it's in the porn.
Well, yeah. And there's a difference between, even though technically it's kind of the same thing, but there's a difference between cucking and hot wifing.
Hot wifing is different, yeah. Hot wife and
it's kind of the same, but it's for different reasons.
Yeah, the hot wife and the dude he's into it. He doesn't feel emasculated by it. He feels empowered. I have allowed this to happen. That type of thing, and also like, look how hot my wife is.
Yeah, that like all these other dudes want to fuck her.
I'm gonna get this big.
Whereas cuck, you get off on being humiliated.
Yeah.
You want them while they're fucking. You want them to talk about how much you suck.
Yeah.
And how small your cock is, and all this other stuff.
I think what he is,
which is a different thing.
I think what this dude is he's a cuck.
Yeah.
He's fantasizing about all the white women these black dudes are getting, and he's feeling humiliated by it.
Yeah.
And instead of enjoying the humiliation like your average cuck, he's trying to rise up and deny that he's a cuck. But he's a cuck.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Or was. He's dead.
He's dead now.
He's dead now.
That's what he is. He's a cuck. He's a cuck, and it makes him mad.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is.
It's like, dude, that's a whole ass fetish. Just get into it.
He wasn't a submissive cuck.
I guess not.
He was a cuck that was fucking trying to fight the fact that he was a cuck. He was trying to prove to himself that he wasn't
in denial.
Yeah, he was trying to prove to himself that he wasn't a cuck. But that's what he was.
Just fucking enjoy it, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a whole ass subculture.
Yeah.
I don't know a huge amount
That's what
about
he
it,
is.
but
He's a cuck.
we got a couple of those when we were streaming. You know, they wanted you to point and laugh at how small their dick was.
Yeah.
You know, I can do that.
He's a cuck. No, I haven't.
Papa 77 says, "Turn into the skid."
Yeah.
Exactly.
I haven't figured out
that. It makes a lot of sense.
He's a cuck.
Yeah.
He's a cuck, and he doesn't like the fact that he's a cuck.
And honestly,
why is he focusing in on this shit?
From hearing him talk, because I watched a couple of pretty extensive interviews with him, and he doesn't seem to have the bandwidth to have realized that. I don't think he was.
Yeah.
He wasn't dumb. Like, he was pretty smart. Like, he's probably above average, but he didn't seem real. He didn't have the emotional bandwidth, and he didn't really have the experience, I guess, to kind of like know. He didn't have the insight into his own needs and wants, and I think he was just kind of, because he fell into these kind of stupid, like, cult-like beliefs, and it's just like he didn't really realize it until he was much older. So I don't know. He
fetishizes interracial relationships, and it cucks him out, and he tries to fight it. He tries to fight what.
Yeah, but Tetsuo said he wasn't self-aware. Yeah, he didn't really seem super self-aware to me.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing about it was, one of the interviews I was watching, like, the woman that was interviewing him, she was, older. She was retired FBI. And from my point of view, I could tell that the questions she was asking her, the way she was wording them, were meant to stroke his ego to get him to talk more. And it's like, to me, it was like really obvious, but to him, he just bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. And I thought that was so funny that she was just like getting him to say all this stuff with what to me seemed like a really obvious, you know, stroking his ego. I thought that was very, very funny that he didn't really see it.
Had he fallen in with the brother, he'd be like, come on, man, let's go fuck some of these white women. They'd have been out tag
and
team.
Everything would have been okay.
He'd have been out
all
tag
these people would still be alive.
He'd have been tag teaming these white women, and he's like, I'm into this.
That's what I mean. It's
fuck
just
the
like
shit out of her, man. Give me some of that.
People would just realize. Like I said, I know he didn't have the best upbringing. I know he didn't have, you know, it's easy for us to sit here and say, but it's just kind of like, it's just really sad. If you don't have the fucking bandwidth to like understand or the insight to understand all of this stuff, it's like you really don't.
He was possessed by the mythic power of the BBC.
I guess.
See, that's what it is.
Yeah. If he had seen it up close, it's like it's to demystify it.
Yeah, he needed that shit demystified. He didn't know any black people, probably.
He probably did not.
Yeah.
Big Dog said, my buddy liked me to fuck his wife while he watched, and she would humiliate him, but he loved it.
Yeah, that's cuck.
That's cuck. That's very, very common. Very common.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's slightly different than Hot Wife, because Hot Wife is kind of the same thing. Like, you want to watch another dude fuck your wife, but...
For the opposite person.
But for the opposite purpose.
Reason.
You don't want to be humiliated. You're just like, man, I'm allowing this to happen. Like, like, my wife
is her what she wants.
Is so hot that it's like all these other dudes like want to fuck her.
I'm giving her what she wants. You know what I mean? And all these other dudes are jealous of me. You know, this is my woman. Y'all love her? Fucking go take her for a ride. Just let me watch. And that was good, wasn't it? Yeah, that kind of shit. So that's what Hot Wife it is.
So so swinging, like I said,
swinging is that also, but it's couples.
Yeah.
You know, so Hot Wife is just a husband.
Yeah. Well, they have Hot Husband too.
Yeah. They have that.
They have Hot Husband too.
I don't think it's as big a thing in porn.
It's not as big a thing in porn.
You're right, yeah.
But it's not as uncommon. I was on a subreddit about the
Hot Husband.
Well, it wasn't the whole subreddit wasn't about that, but somebody commented about it. And it was surprising, like a lot of the comments were like, yeah, I'm into that too. So it's like it's not as uncommon as you would think. Like wanting to watch your husband fuck another chick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Me and Jen are freaky. We appreciate all that.
Because I kind of like that too. Like I don't know if I'd want to see it in real life, but it's just like
Jen likes to fantasize.
I like the idea of it.
Yeah, you know Jen likes to fantasize about seeing me third person do my thing. But the thing is, I'm the same way.
Yeah, it's the same. We have the same thing, just like from the opposite.
I love to watch Jen have sex with toys from the distance, and just go, oh man, look at her. She's getting what she wants, and she, you know, because you're seeing your woman as an individual person, not part as a couple. You're seeing her. Well, what would it be like if I wasn't around, or what would it be like if
that's what it would look like. Yeah.
What would it, you know, you're seeing her as an independent sexual entity.
Yeah.
And you're getting off
like
on
apart
that.
from you.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think is what I like about it, because like I said, I never get to see you.
Yeah, being with
from that perspective.
Right. It's an advanced thinking. Young people, I could have never thought that way in my 20s.
I wouldn't have liked it 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Yeah, 20s and 30s, you're not really developed in the same way to where you can see things in kind of a fucking convoluted direction, and I don't know what human sexuality is complicated.
Yeah.
And when you get older, new things start to become kind of like,
I've got into some different shit the last few years.
Yeah.
Than I would have thought.
Yeah.
That I would have been into.
Well, you're trying to keep things from being stale, and it's just sex, but you're looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, but that's kind of one of the fun things about getting older. The best thing about getting older is you don't give a fuck what people think of you anymore. That's the best thing.
And if you're in a relationship, you trust your person.
That's and so you can like explore things with that person without worrying they're gonna leave or anything like that. So it's like so you have like
or
a
get
safe,
knocked up.
Yeah,
those fucking days are over.
I don't have to worry about that anymore. So it's just so you have like a safe landing pad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like so you can kind of like have a lot more fun when you get older.
Yeah.
You know
you're
what I mean?
free from judgment.
Yeah.
too, in a way. You're
Well, like I
fuck
said,
you.
they don't really. I don't.
If
really
somebody
give a
judges
shit.
you, you're like, bitch, I know who I am. What the fuck
Yeah,
out of here.
I don't really give a
You're
shit
like
what anybody
fucking
thinks
20.
of
What are you telling me?
Yeah. All right, so
Yeah.
let's keep going.
Yeah.
We're getting through this.
He's
We're
a
getting through
cuck,
this.
though.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's probably and like I said, that's why I thought it was kind of funny when
Yeah.
when the woman, the FBI woman, like asked him, well, do you think you had a sexual motive for any of these crimes? Because she was asking him, it's like, why don't you think you're a serial killer? Because I'm not a serial killer. I'm not like those. That they have a different thing going on. Well, why don't you think you're a serial killer? Like, what makes you different? And so he was trying to say, like in a roundabout way, that it's like, they usually have a sexual motive, and he was trying to say that he didn't, but she kind of called him on that, and she was just kind of like, well, didn't you like have did you get some kind of sexual release out of it or something like that? And he was like, oh no, I'm just regular. I just like banging women
He's
and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I was just kind of, and the way he said it, I was like, who are you trying to convince, man?
It's a sexual motive. It's just more convoluted. He's a cuck. That's upsetting him that he's a cuck because he's too racist to be a cuck. So killing the people erases his cuckitude.
Yeah.
So he can deny it to himself.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah, he didn't seem to have a tremendous amount of insight about his own sexuality, which is kind of gross because he looked pretty gross at the end, and I was just kind of like, I didn't really want to think about that dude having sex with anyone or anything, it's just gonna dry everything up, but you know what I mean. All right, so August 20th, 1980, he again kills some random people. This time he killed 2 black men who were jogging. They were actually jogging with 2 white women who were like friends of theirs. They were like college students or something like that. The 2 men he killed were named Ted Fields and David Martin. This was in Salt Lake City, Utah, so he's kind of getting around the country, like I said. Now, for this crime in particular, they actually decided they were going to try him on civil rights charges as well, because they're like, denied civil rights. I don't think they were successful in that, but that was one thing they tried to do. Ooh, thank you. Look how drinks just appeared. Now, this is kind of funny. I was watching, like I said, there's a great, I know I always talk up Time Suck, but there's a great Time Suck about this. And I think it was on there that Dan Cummins said this too. He basically got caught for the first time because he was being a Karen, which is so fucking funny to me. So this is what happened. After he did the crime in Salt Lake City, like he kills the 2 black joggers, and I think he wounded the women too, but like they lived. So he goes back to Kentucky, and he's in Kentucky, and he's staying at this motel. And this is so fucking random. He's staying in a motel, and he happened to be staying at the same motel as a person who was wanted, I think, for a robbery, right? So all these cops show up to investigate this other person, like, to be known for the robbery. And there's all these cops and all this other stuff. And I don't know what time it was, but apparently it was, like, pretty late at night. So this dumbass calls the hotel manager and complains because of all the noise and lights outside the motel are keeping him awake because of these people here for the robbery. And he's bitching and whining, which is something he did a lot. So it goes back and forth, and the manager comes out to the cops, and he's basically like, and they talked about this on the FBI files, which is super funny. But it's like, so the manager comes out, and he's like, look, I got a resident at this motel, and he's complaining about, like, how long are you going to be or something. They're like, look, we're investigating a crime. Okay, chill the fuck out. We're the cops. We can do what we want. So then they're like, well, who was it that complained? It's that dude in that room. So they go to the dude's room and knock on the door, like, just to tell him, hey, bro, chill out. Like, we'll be gone soon. It's like, we're just investigating a robbery or whatever. So he opens the door to talk to them. Franklin does. And there's, like, a whole bunch of guns on his bed. On the hotel bed. And they think, that's a little weird. They're like, why don't you run the plate on his car? And I don't remember, like, they had the plate on the different, but he had a pretty distinctive car. I think it might have been a Camaro, but I could be wrong about that. So they run the car, and then they find out that this car is wanted in, like, connection with some other homicides, like some shootings that have happened, like, in other parts of the country. So they're like, maybe we should take this dude into custody because this looks kind of sketchy. So if he had not complained about the cop cars outside the motel, he'd probably still been free. But no, he just had to piss and moan. So the cops are like, okay, well, obviously this dude is up to something. So they arrested him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they take him into custody. Now, when they take him into the interrogation room, the cop goes out to get him like a drink or something. And when he comes back in, the dude has climbed out the window and absconded. So he escaped. So basically they're like, okay. They had, they knew who he was at this point. And he had two pretty distinctive tattoos, like on his forearms. Like one of them was an American Eagle, and the other one was like a Grim Reaper. Like I said, pretty obvious. That's obviously the tattoos. It said he never swastikas or anything, as far as I know, but that would have really put a target on his back, wouldn't it? But so what they did, they knew that he made money going to blood banks, because at this point they kind of knew what his deal was, because they'd been kind of coordinating. So what they did was they put out an APB, or they put out like a description of him and his tattoos and his car to all the blood banks, like in the areas that the murders had taken place, and other places. And it so happened that in late October of 1980, he went to a blood bank because he thought, well, the cops are after me, so I can't do a bank robbery to get money. So I'm going to have to go to a blood bank and like give some plasma or whatever to get some cash. So he ended up going to a blood bank in Florida, in Lakeland, actually, which is not that far from here. And the person taking his blood recognized his tattoos from the packet that the FBI had sent out everywhere. And so he's just like, here you go, man. And he's like, goes in the other room and he's like, hey, FBI. He's right here. Like, come fucking get him. You know what I mean? So they came and got him. And they arrested him. That's how he got caught, like, from the fucking blood bank. They picked him up in the fucking blood bank.
Damn.
So at this point, he's committed murders in, like 7 or 8 different states. So obviously, a whole bunch of states are wanting to get a piece of him, right? Because at this point, like I said, they've kind of linked together this crime spree that he's been on. And he also ended up confessing to some crimes that they didn't even get him on. Like there was a couple in Pittsburgh, there was one in Decatur, Georgia. Like I don't even think they even brought that up, but there was some other ones he confessed to that they never even bothered, because like I said, there were so many charges against him already. But they think that he was probably responsible for at least 22 murders, and 5 shootings which were non-fatal. That was 11 different states. 2 bombings, like I said, the 2 synagogue bombings that he did, in which no one was hurt but a dog, and as many as 16 bank robberies. So, across multiple states. So, you know, like I said, he was going to be traveling around for a long time. Now, so in Missouri, they're going to try him for the joggers murder. Ted Fields and David Martin, the joggers that he shot. And at this point, they brought him in like to the jury and everything like that. And when they were on a break, he escaped again. Like he did some MacGyver shit where there was like a locked elevator, like, because it was the convict elevator, and they have the whole thing like in the courthouse, and he was able to break into it with like a coin and like some other shit, right? So it wasn't stupid. Like he could do that kind of shit. So he broke into the locked elevator, but they found out that he did that, and then they went and looked for him. And the hilarious thing is that he never even made it out of the building. Like an hour or two later, they found him like in one of the air ducts. Like he had climbed out through the top of the elevator and like tried to get through the air ducts and like try to get out of the building, but they found him because they figured that's probably where he was. So I thought that was pretty hilarious that it's like he thought he was getting away and they just yanked him out of this fucking air duct and he was all dusty and shit. And it's like then they brought him back into the courthouse and it's like they didn't even know. The jury didn't even know what had happened because they were just on their lunch break or whatever. So they just brought him in. So yeah. Now they transferred him in 1982 to a penitentiary in Illinois. And you'll be very happy to hear that a bunch of black inmates ganged up on him and stabbed him a bunch of times in the neck and in the abdomen. Unfortunately, they did not kill him. Can't feel too bad about that.
If they wanted to kill him, they would have killed him. It was a warning.
Yeah, I mean, they probably wanted to. I was just kind of like, what a shame.
They wanted to see his reaction to see if they could fucking get him to fucking to become a coward.
Yeah.
What they were trying to do.
Man, I gotta pee again.
They wanted to humiliate him more than anything else. No, in the prison, if they want you dead, they do it.
Yeah,
because those guys got nothing to lose.
I just thought that was super funny.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, karma, bitch.
All right, let me go ahead and check some comments while Jen is indisposed at this point. Papa 77 is laughing that I said the word cuckitude. Yeah, I fucking made that shit up on the spot. Papa also said that he's a hot husband. Yeah, you're a hot. Yeah, you the situation you got over there, your place, your woman. It's you, the husband, the wife, and then the boyfriend, if I remember correctly. But I remember it's, and I don't know how many other women are involved in it. But I remember it was like what I would probably call some kind of clusterfuck. Some kind of a clusterfuck going on over there. Cuss. See what else is going on. Papa says he's kind of a Bundy. Actually, I think he was I'd probably put this guy more on the level of the Zodiac in terms of there isn't any sexual contact. He just rolls up and kills you. Which is more like something that the Zodiac would do. And really, if you look at the Zodiac wasn't raping people, but he was killing people, and there was a sexual element to it. He was killing people that were making out in cars or on the beach. So you could probably say that the Zodiac was a cuck too. Kind of.
Yeah, I can see that.
Jealous of people in lovers' lanes. You know what I mean?
Well, and when you think about it, that's like what Elliot Rodger was doing.
Yeah.
He was jealous of women that wouldn't date him, even though he was the supreme gentleman.
He's a supreme
and
gentleman.
He was just going around shooting random ass women.
You're making me want to go see the videos again. We did an Elliot Rodger show.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking funny.
That dude just makes me so fucking mad.
Supreme gentleman.
It's too bad he's dead, because I want to just I want to bring him back to life just so I can punch him in the taint.
He's fucking funny, man. Dude was so
a dumbass.
That dude. That's the weirdest fucking dude of all time, right?
Yeah, Zach says, did you guys get a new camera? The colors look different today. No, Tom just put some shit up to the thing and it fucked the lighting up. As it does. So, and I'm afraid to fix it in the middle because I don't know if it's going to fuck shit up. You know what I mean? So, because I have like settings, but I don't know. So, yeah. So, like I said, I'm not a big advocate of violence, you know what I mean? But I just don't feel too bad about him getting ganged up on by a bunch of black guys. Fucking stabbed a bunch of times. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Just saying. So he's in prison for all this time. 1997, they brought him up on, it was the judgment phase of the Gerald Gordon one, the one where the bar mitzvah, where he shot into the crowd and shot Gerald Gordon. He wounded 2 other people also. And he tried to escape during that too, but he didn't make it. But he did get convicted. Now in this case, I think this was right around the time there was a psychiatrist named Dorothy Lewis, and she diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia, and so the defense was trying to use that to basically say he wasn't like fit to stand trial, that he should be put in a mental institution. Like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know. He was for sure paranoid. And you could still see that in his later interviews, like even before they executed him. Like the way he talked and just the way he perceived things. You could see that he still had that. And it was probably markedly worse when he was younger. But I don't know. He seemed to know what he was doing was wrong, which is kind of the whole. Really, the only way it's very, very hard to get an insanity plea. They try to do it when there's really nothing else they can do. Because really, the only way they're going to give you that, and it varies from state to state, but generally, you have to be so mentally ill that you don't know what you were doing was bad. And that's a very, very high bar to clear. So not a lot of people get that. So I kind of feel like he was kind of trying to go for that, but, you know, that didn't work out either. Interestingly, Larry Flynt, who was paralyzed by this motherfucker, did not agree with him getting the death penalty, because he got a bunch of life sentences. I think he got 6 life sentences for various murders. They didn't convict him on all the stuff that he confessed to, but they convicted him on, I believe, 8 murders. He got 6 life sentences and he got 1 death sentence, and the death sentence was in Missouri. And when the death sentence was announced, Larry Flynt came out and said that he didn't think he should get the death penalty for a couple of reasons. He said, one, he's like, I don't think it's right for like a government to say, you know, y'all can't kill people, but we can, which, you know, that makes sense. And also he said, I think he would suffer more if he had to just be in prison. You know what I mean? Like, just killing him is the easy way out.
There's something to be said with that, yeah. Although I would think living your final fucking decades out on death row probably not all that good until your time starts coming, because they start drugging those dudes up before the execution.
Yeah, he was on death row for 15 years.
15
this guy
years,
was.
yeah.
But it was just interesting that, I mean, that's a level of forgiveness I don't think I could ever get to. Like, if somebody paralyzed me from the waist down by shooting me just randomly.
Larry Flynt was kind of like a real American, though. He was into fucking rights.
Yeah.
Speech rights, fucking, you know, any kind of rights. You had a rights to things. So, you know, he was saying that, I think it was mostly like, yeah, the states should not have a monopoly on fucking, well, I believe the state shouldn't have a monopoly on coercive force. You know, that's what the Second Amendment is all about. If the government gets bad, you have to have the means to get rid of it. You know, get rid of tyrannies, because America was born out of overthrowing England. You know, so there's something to be said for that. Most revolutions are kind of fake. Another government is backing it. But American Revolution was like the French Revolution. It was from the bottom up. And it worked. You know, militiamen did it. So some people have said that the fucking state should not have a monopoly on coercive force, because when they do, they can become tyrannical. So what Larry Flynt is saying is kind of like a modification of that, is that the state shouldn't have the right to kill people. I'm going to disagree. If you have a fucking a foreign nation invading your fucking lands, no, you need to fucking order your troops out there to fucking annihilate the invaders, okay? Just the way it is. It's been that way for fucking thousands of years. You have evil motherfuckers, sometimes they gotta go. You just need to do a process to get it done, a legal process to get it done. But I understand his sentiment.
Yeah, well,
I think most of it was that he wanted him to suffer more, and there is something to be said for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of more an advocate of that,
because you're only on death row for fucking 10, 15 years, and then they execute you, and you're kind of, and they do it through lethal injection, which is painless, you know, and then you're gone, you're released into the spirit world.
Yeah, and
when you could have just been staying in the drudgery and the fucking repetition of fucking prison for fucking another 30, 40 years. You know,
which, yeah, I think that's worse. And to be honest, in general, I know this is weird to say, or it's kind of counterintuitive, but the death penalty does end up costing taxpayers more than a life sentence, just because of the appeals process.
Yeah, and it was kind of set up that way, though. They're profiteering off of it. Everything that as soon as you have funding, state funding and federal funding, you're gonna have lawyers and other fucking middlemen trying to figure out how to milk as much money as they can out of that. Which, that's another problem that really needs to be kind of like addressed. You shouldn't be making money off of imprisoning people.
They do, though.
Yeah, and when you do that, it encourages the state to imprison more people.
Well, yeah.
Because they're making profit off of it.
Well, see, and that's why I'm not a big advocate of the death penalty in a lot of cases, because it is unfairly applied in a lot of ways, because which you can see from like the Innocence Project and stuff like that. They've exonerated so many people through DNA and stuff like that that didn't even do the shit that they were put on death row for.
A lot of those are older cases, though.
Well, I will admit though that people like this like they're given the death penalty, as I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I said, they shouldn't even, like, you know, just take him out, like Eddie Izzard says, just take him out back and hit him with a brick. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be sad about
There's
it.
something to be said for the way China does it. If you're found guilty, they know you're fucking guilty, they kill you that day. There's no appeals. They're like, this motherfucker's guilty, he's got to go. They take you out and shoot you in the back of the head with an AK. That's cheap.
Yeah.
There isn't even any imprisonment.
Like I said, I don't mind it for the most egregious cases. And
Yeah.
and if you know that that person absolutely did that shit.
Yeah.
And if they're not even sorry for it or anything.
Right.
Like I said, motherfuckers like this, I don't have any qualms
And some
about.
of these guys want to go anyway.
They probably, yeah.
There have been guys that have fucking said, no, you're going to have to kill me. I'll do it again. You know, I don't want to be here the rest
And
of
they're
my
like,
life.
okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Some guys have fucking pleaded to fucking get the death sentence carried out sooner. They've had that before.
Yeah. Well, at least they had that much self-awareness.
Yeah, well, that was that dude that was killing them little boys. Remember, he hung that little boy in the fucking closet by his neck?
Yeah.
He was a little boy killer.
Yeah. So
He said, you can't free me because I'll do it again, and I don't want to be in prison forever. So let's just get this over with. I plead guilty. Fucking give me the death penalty right now, basically. They speeded it up. He was found guilty, and it still took 5-6 years to kill him.
yeah. Well, like I said, this
Yeah.
dude, it took 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, and there was still like kind of a thing. They finally scheduled his execution for 2013. And then, but there was like kind of some controversy beforehand because there was kind of, because they got a lot of the drugs that they used for the lethal injection, which are used for other things too, obviously. And they got a lot of those drugs from European countries. And so a lot of European countries were like, look, we don't really like our drugs being used to kill people. So can we not? And so there was some kind of thing about that. But Missouri was like, well, you know what? We're just going to use one drug to do the execution, pentobarbital, instead of, normally they would use 3, like a 3-drug cocktail is what they would traditionally use. So for this one though, they're like, no, we're just going to use pentobarbital, and that had never been done before, just the one drug. And so there was all kind of controversy. They're like, so they did a stay of execution at first because the judge was kind of like, hey, we've never done this before, is there any precedent, like what are we going to do with this? I don't know if that's going to work out. So they tried to do a stay for that, and then they tried to do another stay of the execution for him pissing and moaning and like saying it's like, I'm not fit to stand trial, I have paranoid schizophrenia, blah blah, whatever the fuck. But the court didn't buy it. They're like, nope, we're just gonna do it. So they did it. So they ended up executing him November 20th, 2013. He had no last words, no final written statement, no nothing. He didn't say anything. It took about 10 minutes. They just injected him with the drug, and that was it. Like 10 minutes later, he was dead. And they said he did a interview, like I said, in 2013, which I read. And he said that he had renounced his previous views, which I don't entirely believe. Because, like, the way he was talking still kind of sounded like he sort of felt like that kind of. He said that racism was illogical, which is true. And he tried to, like, play on the abusive upbringing, which, okay. He was abused as a child, okay. But still, that's not an excuse. You're an adult now. And he basically said, I met a bunch of black people in prison, and they're people just like us. And I was like, wow, no shit. Yeah. No shit. It took you this long to figure that out. Okay, dumbass. All right. So there was
a certain amount of naivete, I think, when it comes to a lot of the people that end up in racist organizations. They don't know people of other races.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess not.
I mean, there are bad people in every fucking group. And if you focus in on just the bad, you're going to have a fucking kind of a twisted view.
Yeah, you're going to have a bad time.
I mean, you have...
Because most people are not like that.
Yeah.
The reason that people notice bad behavior is because it's unusual.
All you got to do is go on Twitter and go look at an inflammatory subject, and you can see white people and black people being fucking... and any kind of people. You'll have Pakistanis jumping in there, all being racist towards one another. and they're all throwing the worst attributes of each other in each other's faces. And then you'll have fucking white people and black people in those conversations. Because look at these motherfuckers, they're all brain dead. They're using the worst examples of each race, and they're using that. They're not using what the average person is like.
Yeah.
Within those groups.
Well, one thing, like
know?
when I was a kid, here was something I always noticed, because my grandpa was like super racist, right? He was from Tennessee. And he would watch the news at night, like while we were watching, like eating dinner. And I always noticed that, like, whenever a crime was committed in Daytona Beach, where I grew up, by a black person, he would go off and all those N-words, blah, 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 they do this and that. But if a crime was created by a white person...
He didn't notice it. Yeah, he didn't
He didn't say a single... He didn't make a peep.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, like, very young.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, that's a little interesting, isn't it? That he doesn't even comment on it when a white person does some shit. Even though white people did shit too. Yeah. Just as bad. Yeah. But he would never bring it up. Because he was white. Yeah. So it was easier to, like, other the, you know.
Anybody can be bad. Depends. It just depends. And yeah, if you look at statistics, young black males get in a lot of fucking trouble. Okay? But if you look at the big picture, everybody kind of gets in trouble. It's just going to be different. It depends on whatever environment they're in.
Yeah.
The young black guys are getting in trouble because they're into that fucking rap music and gang banging and probably selling drugs. It's all drug trade shit. Okay? But, you know, you have white dudes getting in trouble, some of them molesting kids. You know what I mean? Fucking, you have other ones
like
fucking,
it's mostly white people.
yeah, or you have a fucking dude who fucking goes crazy, goes to school, and fucking shoots the whole school up with a fucking rifle.
Also mostly
white
white
you have
people.
that. That's mostly white guys doing
Serial
that.
killers, mostly white guys.
Mostly white guys, yeah. Well, that's a statistical thing, though.
Statistically, yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, there have been black serial killers.
Yeah, we've done a couple shows about
it. At the, I think it's at the, and there's been Hispanic ones. I think it's at the fairly normal rates. Like, there's going to be a certain percentage of any race that does it. Less than 1%. But there's more white people, so you're going to have more white serial killers, and there's more Hispanics. You're going to have more of them because they've had Hispanic serial killers too. You know, fucking Italians and shit like that. And in China they have them.
Yeah,
the Chinese ones. You know, so, but yeah, certain communities, fucking, you know, low income, fucking young black males, they can have problems. All right. But it's just problems that are in that community. It's not necessarily like fucking widespread. You meet some middle-aged fucking black chick, she's no fucking threat to you. You know,
well,
she's not fucking out slinging drugs.
Generally, people that are brought up in poverty,
they're gonna be in trouble.
In abusive households and stuff. No matter what color they are, they usually don't turn out well. Yeah, I mean, because that's just how the shit works. You know what I mean? It's not a race thing. It's an environment thing.
We're in the South, you know. I'm from Mississippi. Mississippi has some of the best black people of all fucking times. Even though fucking it's got a high fucking crime rate, everybody's involved in it. Okay, it has a very low population density, and you're gonna meet some great people of all color there. It's just, you know, fucking, because it's not big cities. Big cities, the shit gets compressed into one area. And you have some bad motherfuckers all in one area, and they can communicate with each other, and they can do bad shit. If it's spread out, it's not as combustive. You know, it's just isolated incidences.
Yeah, you know, like they still do it.
They still do it. Just
you just hear about it as much, and it's a lower population.
Yeah, there's not as many people involved in it, so it's not really evident.
Yeah. Like I said, you're not really.
Terrain has a lot to do with it.
That too.
Terrain, what the population density is like, it has a lot to do with it.
But yeah, this fucking interview that I watched, like I said, the interview was conducted in 2013, I believe, which was the same year that he was executed. And the reason that I don't really believe, despite what he said, that he had changed his ways, was that his tone of voice when he talked about the murders, because she did ask him about specific murders, he still kind of sounded like he was bragging when he was talking about them. Not overtly, but it still kind of sounded like that to me. And he was also kind of still playing the victim, doing the grievance thing. He still seemed kind of bitter that the media didn't catch on, that he was trying to start a race war, and that they didn't link the crimes immediately, and that I kind of feel like I don't know if he wanted to be famous necessarily, but I think that he wanted more recognition than he got, and I think he was still bitter about it that many years later. The funny thing about it is that, like I said, he was just kind of like playing the victim and stuff. One of the judges in one of his cases said something to him, and I think this is a direct quote, but when he was in court and he said this to him directly, he said, "If there was such a thing as a motion to whine, I'm sure you would have filed it." And I was like, ooh, savage. I love that. That judge is like fucking awesome. He didn't even say it mean. He just like said it regular, because I saw the video. And I was just kind of like, that's fucking awesome. Because the dude was just, he was always whining about how stuff wasn't fair. And it's like, he even said, like, when he was on death row, like, for all that, he's on fucking death row, right, for multiple murders. And he's whining about, you know, I should be able to have to do phone calls whenever I want. And all of a sudden, it's not fair that blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you're a multiple murderer. What are you fucking talking about? What's fair or not? You know, shut the fuck up. So he's just like whining all the time. So I thought that was funny that like the judge called him out for that, because I was like, man, what a whiner. And like I said, he was also adamant that he wasn't a serial killer, even though he really tried to separate himself from the serial killer thing. So in this interview, these are some direct quotes. This is some shit that he said. And this is 2013, so this is the year he was executed. So he was talking about his older self. But like I said, I think he still kind of had these views. He said, "I was trying to kill blacks and interracial couples to get the publicity so that other white nationalists would see what was happening, start trying to follow suit, and kill them themselves. But it never happened." And he seemed kind of sad about that. "When they found out about it, they still wouldn't do it. They just didn't have the type of mindset I had. I was the type of guy who would go out believing that Nazi philosophy and everything and walk the talk too. Others were just talkers." So like I said, he said that in 2013 before he got killed, when he was like in his 60s. So he was obviously still peacocking about it a little bit. Yeah. Like, I was actually doing the shit. They were just talking about it. You know what I mean? Like the way he was saying it. He also said, I was just convinced in my life for many years that Nazism was the right way. Any good person would believe in Nazism. I thought that was just the correct way. Then he says, it's just amazing how my opinions changed over the years. Did they? I see things as they really are now. Do you? My mind isn't warped like it was. I'm much more aware. Took you long enough. However, like, he said that he had this big revelation. This is kind of funny. That he had this big revelation after he read these books and he started meditating and stuff. He read like these self-help books, and I can't remember the name of the author. But he read all these and they supposedly really helped him, according to him. But then, like, later on, he found out that the author was Jewish, and he got really mad, and he threw them all away. And then he said, wait, I'm being really stupid, because it's like, just because he's Jewish, he really helped me, and it's like, maybe everything's okay after all, and all this other kind of shit. Now, he says this happened in, like, the mid-'80s, like 86 or 87. However, in 1997, at one of his sentencing trials, he said, and this is a quote, this was in court, he said they asked him if he was sorry about anything, and he said, the only thing that I'm sorry about is that it's not legal. And they said, what's not legal? And he said, killing Jews. 1997, damn. He said that. 10 or 11 years after his supposedly big thing. He said that in court. Now, later they asked him about that, because they're like, look, we found this transcript of you in court, and you said this shit. Oh, I was just saying that because I wanted to get the death penalty, because I knew that if I got the death penalty, they would move me to this other prison, and at this old prison, the guards wanted to kill me. I was like, okay, bro. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so that's why I think he's full of shit. Was full of shit. He's dead now.
Yeah.
But the hilarious thing, too, a week before he was executed, he said, I'm confident myself because I try to obey the Lord. Okay. Keep his commandments. I'm a little more into the religion thing. I've met inmates before who claim to be Christians. Most of them, I would say, are pretty much fakes. I'm like, that's fucking classic. Classic. So yeah. So that dude was fucking executed. Thank God that he's no longer on the fucking earth anymore. I don't believe in God, but just saying. So and it's funny how he thinks he's like following commandments and shit. He thought he was doing that before too. That the Lord told him he should cleanse the earth of.
Well.
So.
Yeah, religion, Nazism. in a way, was kind of like a secular religion, and it kind of blended in with Christianity at certain times. Like, fucking all the Christian prayer books in Nazi Germany also had prayers with Hitler involved in them and stuff, so
weird.
And then neo-Nazism, some of it fucking blended in with Christianity, even though if you understand what National Socialism, it was not Christian at all. Just that they knew, the marketing agents behind the Third Reich knew that you couldn't come out and fucking disavow Christianity publicly. You'd lose support because a lot of the Germans are Christians. But they, the SS they saw Christianity as a Jewish hoax. And, that it was something that they were going to get rid of. They were going to replace it with National Socialism, secular religion, woke, Nazi woke. That's what it was going to be.
That's not at all like woke Nazism.
What's
nothing,
that?
Is nothing like woke.
No, it would be woke Nazism. That's what it would be. That Nazism was woke. That's what they were going to do.
So, fun fact. In 1989, a novel called Hunter came out. And this novel was written by the quite well-known white supremacist William L. Pierce. Same motherfucker that wrote the infamous Turner Diaries, which everybody kind of knows about. And this book, Hunter, was based around a guy named Oscar Yeager, who was a racist serial killer who murders interracial couples. This book was dedicated to Joseph Paul Franklin.
What book is this?
It's called Hunter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a novel.
All right.
And in the dedication, where he dedicates it to this piece of shit, he says he saw his duty as a white man and did what a responsible son of his race must do.
Yeah. Everything from a racial perspective.
Special.
Yeah. Racial identity
yeah.
politics. White racial identity politics. That's what it is. Yeah. Not a good idea.
People worry too much about the wrong shit, seriously.
These dudes are always incels.
Yeah, like I said, they don't have anything else to offer other than whiteness.
And they're not doing anything. They're not married usually.
Or they marry 16-year-olds like this motherfucker did.
They're just... No, they're losers. Yeah, they're losers.
Yeah. Like I said, if you weren't a loser, you wouldn't even entertain this way of thinking. Losers do not entertain this way of...
Well, what it does is it limits you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It limits what you can do, what you can think. It's just, very limiting. Limiting, yeah, not limiting.
Limiting. I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean?
I'm drunk.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what... This dude just went down the fucking rabbit hole, right? He was fucking abused and beat up as a kid. His lineage was German.
So he says, well, I must be like a Nazi. So he
was apparently, as a teenager, was really enamored by Hitler and by that idea. And so he just went along that path, and he really didn't seem to have anyone in his life that was telling him not to do that.
That gets back to what we said before. Mostly what people know about Nazism was the graphic design, the way it looked, and that sucks a lot of people into it. I remember when I was in elementary school, I'd go to the library and we'd pull out fucking World War II, big old fucking World War II reference books. I was like in 3rd and 4th grade, and we would come across all that German stuff. And all the little boys were like, wow, look at that. And you look, and you know who the little boys were? Little Filipino boys, Mexican boys that I went to school with in California. And they just fucking loved the way that looked. But we didn't know anything about
it. The villain shit always looks cooler.
What's that? Yeah.
The villain shit always looks cool.
It's true of movies, it's in cartoons and everything. Villains always look
They had very good marketing.
Yeah.
They had real good marketing and advertisement. They knew how to pull people in. And it's because they were a weak group. And the best thing a weak group should do is to look strong. And everything is about strong and power.
Yeah, so they build this edifice.
Yeah. And people would join it. And it got bigger.
Yeah.
It got bigger.
Like I said, it's like fake it till you make it.
Now, even even at its biggest, it was nothing compared to the size of, say, United States or Russia. They got crushed. They knew that they were outnumbered, so they tried to do the Wunderwaffen fucking move where you make everything super high tech and super high quality. But that failed on the battlefield. All those tanks, like the fucking Tiger, the King Tiger, Jagdpanther and all that, Jagdpanzer, they were great tanks, but they were overcomplicated, and the road wheels would get fucking clogged up with fucking snow and shit.
They were trying too hard.
They tried too hard, and that shit was expensive, and it took a long time to make it. The Russians were making simple, basic tanks that you can make shit ton of them quickly, like the T-34.
Because they weren't just trying to show off. They
had
practical.
numbers. And fucking and people said, you know, and the Germans were talking about how low quality these Russian tanks were. The T-34 was
like
whipping that
asses,
ass. And fucking Stalin looked at the numbers and he goes, "It looks like quantity has a quality all its own." And that was the M4 Sherman. It was in many ways an inferior tank compared to, say, like a German heavy tank, but they were everywhere.
But you could make more of them and make more of them faster.
We were just making more and more, and they had a small footprint, so you could pack a lot of them in a ship. We had to ship them bitches across the ocean, so we couldn't make a heavy tank. You couldn't fit them in a ship. You couldn't fit enough of them, so we just decided numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers wins and speed
like
of
I said,
production.
Practicality.
Yeah.
Always.
And, you know, it was a well-balanced fighting vehicle. Good mobility. It had armor. It had a gun. And there was a shit ton of them. Yeah, you ran into a heavy tank, you probably get your ass kicked. But you were everywhere else. Blowing up buildings and fucking blowing dudes out of the fucking pillboxes and just, you know, and you'd kill that tank eventually. You just hit it with artillery and fucking aircraft. And
like you said,
gang up on it.
I kind of feel like the weakness at the heart of the Third Reich, supposedly, was this idea that they were, at their heart, weak, but they were trying to portray themselves as strong. So everything that they did was in service to the image of strength, but not actual strength, because they didn't really, like I said, they tried too hard. They overthought it.
Yeah, they knew they didn't have numbers, so they tried to just be better. They made these fucking highly trained infantry soldiers. They were fucking really good. Super fucking high-tech tanks and aircraft and jets and shit, but they didn't have enough of them. You couldn't make enough of that shit. And when they were killed, it took too long to replace them.
Yeah.
You have their best troops. You know, they had been in peacetime training up 4 or 5 years. Some of them went back to Operation Condor in the fucking Spanish fucking Civil War. These guys were hardened. They threw them at Russia, and Russia just ate them up. You're only going to survive so long in combat. You know? 18 months later, those dudes are all dead. They're being replaced by guys that only have 3 months training. You know? Numbers. Warfare isn't this thing where, well, I'm going to have this super tank and it's going to destroy 10 enemy tanks. It doesn't actually work out that way. It would be better to take that tank and break it up into 7 or 8 other cheaper vehicles. Spread it out. Spread all that steel out.
Yeah.
Some of them will get destroyed, but some of them will live. And you can make those faster. You know.
It's kind of more the strategy of like an animal having like a whole bunch of offspring.
Yeah,
because they know that most of them will die.
Exactly. And guess what? Those Germans that did all that shit ended up getting adopted into the United States through Operation Paperclip. And all that shit affected the army that I was in. We started to go to our super weapons. Well, you can see right now in the Ukraine, they get fucking M1 Abrams just getting the shit kicked out of it. All these high-tech weapons that we came up with that I was serving with when I was in the army, they're all getting fucking destroyed by cheap fucking drones. Cheap fucking quadcopters are destroying that shit. They're destroying fucking $3 million tanks with fucking like $2,000 drones. That's not sustainable. There's an economy involved. The ultimate weapon right now in fucking Ukraine, dudes on motorcycles, because you spread them out. A drone hits, instead of destroying an APC that's worth $1 million with 9 dudes in it, you just hit a motorcycle worth $1,500 with one guy on it. Spread them out. So it's gone back to almost like World War I or early 1900s, Pancho Villa and all that shit. Teddy Roosevelt on motorcycles fighting Pancho Villa. It's like that. It's all cyclical. Super weapons don't work. Not for long.
They're cool ideas and everything.
Yeah.
But like I said,
They're not practical.
in the thick of it, yeah, not really
Yeah,
practical. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so does Dennis have anything to say about this motherfucker?
Oh, well, he wasn't good for the community, you know.
He wasn't good for the community. He wasn't good for many communities.
He
11
wasn't-
different states.
He wasn't good for community. I'm going to talk about Dennis. Come on. Let's go ahead and shut it down.
It's not really Dennis's thing,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it? All right, so we are going to wrap it up for this evening. It's about 10:30 for us. We've been on for about 3 hours. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Like I said, this guy's a piece of shit, but like, not gonna deny, I kind of went down like a bunch of rabbit holes, like about all of the dudes that this motherfucker like associated with and all this other kind of stuff. So I got super into it. I don't remember who it was that recommended it, but thank you. This was like a really interesting topic that I didn't really know much about. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Like I said, have a good rest of your evening. We'll be back again on Friday night for the Sidetrack show, which if you're new here is just the open lines. We don't have a topic or anything like that. We just sit around and drink and talk about whatever the fuck. Usually ends up being food or porn. One of those two things. So, you know, if that sounds like something that would be fun, then yeah, come here on Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be here for a couple of hours chatting about bullshit, and it'll be super fun. So, thank you again, everybody, for hanging out with us this evening. Thank you for your super chats. And we will see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.